Welcome to this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, the show where we chart the cinematic legacy of the great monsters. I'm John Campbell. With me, as always, Brendan Jones.
It is me. How are you, John?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Brendan?
It's a beautiful February day to date it. Put it in the
It's what you do on this show. You're the one who likes to put a stamp on when we're recording.
Well, it's also supposedly we're getting snow soon, which is rare for our area.
It is, although I'm always very skeptical of the snow because I've been so ready for the snow apocalypses of years past, and then nothing happens.
Yeah, I know. And of course, you look at any weather app or channel, and it goes. They come up with something like Winter Watch.
Yeah.
Winter Storm Warning Watch.
Yeah.
2021. And you're well, okay.
My favorite thing, I used to do a stand-up bit about this, is when they put reporters out where it's really snowy, and they're just like, boy, it's really coming down.
Yeah, we didn't need you out there as proof, but I hope they're paying you well enough.
We're just going to kill this correspondent we have and let him freeze to death up on Mount Hood.
No, it's always the people covering hurricanes. I'm like, bye.
Oh, yeah.
People hanging on to, street signs.
Yeah.
Wow,
whoa, it's pretty windy out here.
As you can see behind me, people in boats. They're going down the street in boats.
You can look up this clip when Al Roker almost blew away one hurricane season. You have a couple producers going like, no,
and that was before the weight loss.
I know, that showed you how impressive that hurricane was. It just picked up Al Roker at peak weight.
I love the fact that we've started the podcast and already we're nowhere near talking about the film for today.
Nope, but long time listeners,
my fault.
If you've been listening to this show at all, you shouldn't be surprised.
Nope. You're getting your money's worth.
Well, we're continuing this little run of one-offs from Hammer. And this week we are talking about 1963's The Kiss of the Vampire.
It's a one-off, though, interestingly enough. And some of these little factoids that I'll drop in is in lieu of payment for my book report this week. But this was essentially made up of elements that were supposed to be their third Dracula film.
I didn't look this up, but I thought this the whole time I was watching it. It had to be.
They knew they would return to Dracula, but Christopher Lee was still tied up and still reluctant to return to the character.
So they got a guy who squint and he looks a little like Christopher Lee.
I thought that was actually a mistake. I'm like, I liked one thing I liked about Brides of Dracula is that their vampire, while tied in, they purposely went. I mean, he's another aristocrat, but they purposely went anti what you expect. Here, they're like, no, we got to get a guy who's European, dark, and has a widow's peak. It's like, okay, guys. I as a kid, I did kind of think all vampires had widow's peaks, and wore formal wear.
I mean,
because that's the Dracula uniform.
Is so iconic that it kind of just became vampires.
It's a shame because here is No, it doesn't. But it is essentially taking the concepts they had, and though they never mention his name, it is, again, seemingly a continuation of the idea that vampirism, specifically spawned by Dracula, is a cult.
Yeah.
It's a thing that, at this point, becomes sort of the pastime of the wealthy. So this was interesting take where it was sort of eyes wide shut, meeting the birds by the end. It was very much like vampirism equals rich decadence.
Yes.
So I thought it was an interesting take.
Oh, definitely.
Whether or not it made the movie good, we'll talk about.
There's a lot of interesting ideas in this movie.
Yes, I do think that at the end of the day, it's definitely worth a watch. It's much more deliberately paced than maybe I would appreciate.
But the director, in agreement with that.
This director decided
first time not Terrence Fisher directing for one of the movies we've watched during the Hammer season.
Correct. This one actually jumps to a guy named Don Sharp, and this was his first film for Hammer. He won't show back up on this podcast, but he did continue to direct for Hammer. He did a couple of the Fu Manchu movies with Christopher Lee.
Which, in looking around for this movie, I found out that there's a really nice, new, beautifully restored Blu-ray box set of all of Christopher Lee's Fu Manchu movies, and I have considered buying it.
I would buy it and then hide it from any guests. No, that's terrible. That you we were talking about pulps just yesterday, actually, and that's the thing. I unabashedly love the pulps, understanding full well of the sensitivities of a different time and place. And you sit there going, "This is not appropriate stuff."
I mean, I love the Fleming Bond novels in a very similar sort of way, where you're just like, some of this is actively hateful.
This is very racist.
You read those Fleming books and you're like, these are just the active opinions of one man in filtered through an espionage mystery.
But that being said, so Don Sharp, welcome to the Hammer family, and he had not done horror before. And when they gave him the job, they just like, we thought what you did your last film was really good. We're giving you this one. They sat him down, and he said, "Is like they showed me Curse of Frankenstein. They showed me Dracula. They showed me, one of the others." He goes, "Oh, I think I got it now." And he actually requested to tone down the scares in this movie because he wanted to take he wanted more atmosphere and suspense. He wanted to build to something.
Yeah, maybe not the greatest starting point though for making a monster movie.
No, absolutely. But
could we just make it a little less scary? Maybe
it's essentially. He goes, "I know that you've got to have a wow finish," and he goes, "and a couple of good bits along the way." He goes, "But he wanted this to be something that built dread in you because of how far will this go and da da da." I'm not sure he totally succeeds.
He
but
succeeds for the first act of the movie. Then I'm like, all right, let's get to it now.
Yeah.
But I thought he really did do a really good job building dread, and I thought, man, the first act of this, I like the pacing of this and these sort of, and then it's just like, okay, we're 45, 50 minutes in the movie, and we're still building dread. It's a little bit like,
yes,
that's a tough game to play. You're walking a line there between dread and boredom.
I do think he shot it well too. There's some very interesting framings and
looks nice.
Yeah. So again, I must apologize to our listeners this week due to unforeseen circumstances. As in, I actually have a little bit of work to do. Yay! I don't have a history of this film. I have read about it. I just wasn't able to put stuff down. But I can tell things along the way. For instance, this is 1963's Kiss of the Vampire. And it was actually not released in England until after we got it in the U.S. It opened in the U.S. in September of 1963, and it didn't open in its native Britain until 1964. And apparently, not only did the director request that some of the scares be taken out, the censors were all over this one. Even before they were filming, they went after the script and
we're
so many notes.
You, Hammer. We see what you're up to.
Basically, it. Hammer was constantly testing and pushing against the boundaries, and unfortunately, every now and then the censors pushed back and said, "We won't release this as is."
That's enough of your sadism.
But anyway, so this is a one-off, and it's an interesting one, and it's not technically tied into the Dracula films.
It's a really interesting movie, like especially in doing it in the show and where it comes here, because by the end of this series, we will be doing like Frankenstein, Dracula, pretty much down the stretch. So, I mean, these one-offs kind of come in the middle before it just becomes franchise town.
Pretty much, though. I mean, you could also say that when they launch into the Karnstein films, which is all
builds its own continuity.
Right, it builds its own franchise, but right off you're like, wait a minute, there's no Dracula here either. So it's just.
And late in the game, we'll get to my favorite of the one-offs, and maybe my favorite Hammer movie, which is Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter.
That one is the pick of the one-offs, and I can't wait for that one either.
Damn, that movie rules.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. That's down the line.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't take much work. I was sitting there watching this one going, they just haven't mentioned Dracula, but this can totally be in the same continuity.
You know what? I thought
There's
the same
nothing
thing.
to counteract.
And I will say the biggest disappointment to me is that this vampire hunter is not our beloved Van Helsing.
Yes, but what? Here's another factoid: the ending, which is totally batshit.
There's a lot of bats at the end, is what we're saying.
This ending is what they wanted to have the ending of Brides of Dracula originally, and it was Peter Cushing who said no. Van Helsing would not call upon the powers of darkness to destroy vampires.
Right.
So Peter Cushing said no to this swarm of bats.
I agree with Cushing, and I also agree in the sense that he's right about Van Helsing, and also that had a more exciting climax. These bats are cool.
Yeah,
concept.
Are cool in concept. This is where they're sitting there going, God damn it, just a few decades, CG could do this. Yeah. But no, right now, we don't get that.
This induced laughter in me. Not terror. I do just want to point to one other movie on Don Sharp's resume, because it's one I have an affinity for that is gloriously silly.
I know which one. Go ahead, say it.
Is it Rasputin the Mad Monk?
No.
Oh,
that's not the one I would have said.
That's the one I picked, which I kind of love that movie, even though it is completely insane.
I love that one too, as someone who, for his own purposes, delved into the history of Rasputin and Dracula as a combo. I've always loved that crossover kind of idea, and this movie, Rasputin the Mad Monk, does not cross over with Dracula, but Christopher Lee plays Rasputin.
Yes,
it's great.
It's
historically
great.
Completely inaccurate.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I love about it. But it's Christopher Lee chewing the scenery, and I just looked at the poster for it here, and I just love the fact that it says, "Get your Rasputin beard free as you enter the theater, given to guys and gals alike."
I love it.
So you have theaters full of people watching Rasputin wearing fake beards. That's amazing. That's the best thing I've ever heard.
The one I thought you were going to bring up is Psychomania.
Well, sure. I mean, that too. Look, the guy directed a lot of schlock, which I do enjoy.
Psychomania, if you guys, it's actually, it sounds better than it is. It can actually be pretty boring. I mean, but it's just
Psychomania promises a lot as a title.
Yeah. But you've got motorbike gang, and you've got this woman who's a Satanist, and it's just bringing bikers back as zombies. It's just crazy, go nuts. And it's like 1973.
Like Psychomania, or as it's referred to on IMDb, the Death Wheelers.
Death Wheelers. Yeah. I'm not sure which. I think maybe was it released here as Death Wheelers, but it was.
I think that's the case.
Psychomania.
I'm looking at the American poster. And it's Psychomania, but its original title, it says here, was Psychomania.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is a better title. Psychomania.
It is.
I mean, who doesn't want to see a movie called Psychomania?
Death Wheelers sounds just stupid.
It sounds like a Death Wheelers.
It sounds like one of those CB trucker movies from the 70s.
We got a great big convoy.
Oh my God! You should not, at your age, be able to sing any part of Convoy by C.W. McCall.
Not only have I heard that song, I've seen the Sam Peckinpah film adaptation of said song. Which is maybe the worst film he directed.
It has to be.
I think it is.
You can actually, if you listen to the soundtrack close enough, you can actually hear him at the bank saying, "This check will clear, right? This check will clear."
Keep it up, Christopherson. Whatever, you're driving the truck.
Look angry. Now look sad.
Yeah.
All right, we're done.
Yeah, I'm a huge Peckinpah fan, but that one I can't abide.
It's no good. No. We should get back to Kiss of the Vampire.
Kiss of the Vampire, though. Do we want to talk about this poster?
We do. It's a good one.
This is a good one, and once again promises a movie full of spooky, scary moments.
And we don't get that. The one thing this does show us is it shows us multiple vampires, so at least the poster is indicating you're not just getting one. You're not getting just one nobleman wearing formal wear.
No.
You're getting more than one vampire.
I mean, this movie does, I believe, up to this point, has the most vampires in it we've seen of Hammer Pig.
Oh my God. I think possibly the most vampires we'll see for the rest until we get to maybe Vampire Circus.
Yeah.
But Kiss of the Vampire, this poster is, it's not very well made or painted.
No.
I love the fact you got guy vampire holding a woman with a bloody throat.
Yep.
The woman is scantily clad, and I love the fact that she's like passed out in his arms, but she's resting on nothing.
Well, her legs seem to be her knees are bent and they seem to be hovering above the ground.
Right. The knees are bent as if that's how she was supporting herself, but he's holding her and his feet go below those knees. So he's standing on ground.
Yes.
What is she supposedly kneeling on?
We established with every other person on this poster where ground level is.
Yeah, but she is hovering, as you say, in a very odd pose.
Yeah.
All right, and there are bats flying all around this very dark sky.
And I will say it promises me giant bats, and we just get regular sized bats in the movie. Because look at this giant bat biting into the vampire woman.
That's also an indication of the plot here, because we have a vampire woman seemingly in pain as she is being bitten by a bat. What? A vampire being bitten by a bat?
And we have the male vampire being just quite concerned about all the bats. He's like, ah!
Yeah, he's like, stay away from me. He looks like he's about to swat him away.
And I love the male victim here, just how far back his neck has gone.
At least he has ground to be kneeling on.
Yeah.
He is actually kneeling on the ground in front of Vampire Lady.
And apparently is missing some vertebrae because he's fully backwards there.
Yeah, that neck, that is bent back about as far as you can go. So not the best painting job, but still.
There is something delightfully campy about it, though.
It is very campy.
And
it has campy horror letters, and this is something I love.
The V.
And by love, I mean hate.
Just the bottom of the V dripping the blood.
The bottom of the V suggesting a fang, and yes, it has blood on it, but even better, it's not just that it has blood at the base of the V. We have big blood droplets, like cartoon blood droplets.
That don't fit at all with the style of anything else on the poster. They're full on like Disney movie cartoon blood. And just a shit ton of bats.
Shit ton of bats and a castle in the background. This time, and I know you guys are tracking it, there is no inset comic panel.
There is no inset comic panel, and there is no tagline on this poster. Just in Eastman color.
I'm looking.
Which I love the idea of somebody going, "Oh, it's an Eastman. I gotta see this."
I always found it weird, and I think it's just about proprietary. All these different film stock companies. They wanted to stamp it like, "Here's the thing: we're using Eastman. No, we're using blah blah blah." But it's like no one did run to the theater knowing that it was. They didn't care if something was shot in Panavision or whatever.
Honey, there's a new Eastman color picture. What is it? I don't care. Eastman color.
The blood's going to look even more like chili or perhaps some sort of bright ketchup-y thing.
Just to speak to the kind of person I've been going, but when I'm not watching the Hammer movies, I've been watching a lot of Italian westerns of the 60s recently. And
as you would.
The blood is very, very similar to the blood that's in the Hammer movies. It's still that red really red paint.
Yeah, I think that they were, again, testing boundaries. So, like, we can have blood, we can show blood, and we can show it in big amounts now in the 60s, but we just can't make it look too real.
Right. Yeah. There's something kind of charming about that to me.
I think so too.
Yeah, there is something about, and
at the very beginning of this movie, we get some crazy bright orange blood.
We'll get to. I do want to talk about the taglines, but I will say this is the best opening scene of any of these movies.
And I was, again, this is a movie I have never seen. You yourself are not entirely sure if you have seen it before.
It's one, but I'm going to say I haven't. At least I don't remember anything about it, so I haven't.
I was watching this going, I don't know why we're taking so long with this. This is so interestingly drawn out.
Yeah. No
one's even said any dialogue except for a priest speaking Latin, but then it finally delivers. I'm like,
God.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know that they'll ever top this cold open of this movie because it rules. But let me quickly. We only have 2 taglines here, and one is the very simple, shocking, horrifying, macabre.
I'd say that's fairly accurate. Parts of this movie are shocking. It goes into some interesting territory. Horrifying?
Yeah.
Depends on but it's definitely macabre.
It is very macabre. This movie is macabre from start to finish. There's no question about that. It's the macabriest movie you've ever seen.
You need to give us that second tagline, though.
The second tagline is great because I love that it just focuses on like the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Giant devil bats summoned from the caves of hell to destroy the lust of the vampires.
To which I say, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Because it literally is just like going, here's how it ends.
We don't know anything about the bats until, what, 5 to 6 minutes from the end of the movie when they show up?
It's maybe 10 minutes for the end before the word vampires, but maybe it's 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And finally you have a professor who's not Van Helsing say, so have you ever heard of vampires? And then the other guy, the bland dude from the movie you saw last week goes, well, yeah, I've heard of vampire bats.
And he's like,
Duh.
no!
No, you idiot.
Anyway, we'll get to it because we gotta jump into this picture because I'm dying to talk about this opening scene. Yeah, we start with a casket being carried from a church to the graveyard, and a procession of people following it, and one mysterious cloaked man watching from on high. Professor Zimmer, who is our vampire hunter of this movie, played by Clifford Evans. He's given a very Batman-y introduction here.
Well, I kind of like every now and then this movie's like going, I'm playing with your expectations. And so this mysterious cloaked figure in a top hat.
I thought he was
watching
evil.
from a distance. Yeah. And the people at the funeral, they know he's there. And they're like going, oh, he won't even come down here. It's like, I bet he's been drinking. Oh, okay. Maybe not evil. Maybe it's just an alcoholic. They've requested.
That is a weird aspect of the character of Professor Zimmer is that he's a booze hound.
I kind of respected that. If nothing else, they're like, okay, if it's not Van Helsing, he's going to be very un-Van Helsing.
But I wish
this
they
guy
went at that harder. Is I guess what I'm saying. It's like he's a booze hound when they need him to be, and then totally sober when he's.
Just the idea that he's so weighted with all this evil that he knows exists in his town that it's ruined his life.
Yeah.
And essentially, I'm not exactly sure, we'll talk about it, but I'm not exactly sure why he knows what's going on. But he doesn't make any kind of attempt. Well, he says something about a conjunction of planets at the end. Jesus Christ. But
he's not doing anything about these vampires until the time is right.
Until the time is right. So he's just been sitting there getting drunk and glaring ominously at people.
Yeah, this guy is not nearly as heroic as Van Helsing.
No, he's not. I do like the actor. I thought he did a fine job.
I thought he was good too. Clifford Evans was again. And so then he walks down as everyone is sort of mourning around this grave, and he just grabs the thing of holy water.
Oh, this is great. So the priest has finished doing the blessing. They're about to start filling the and everyone's surprised that Professor, they haven't said his name, but he comes down and the priest does the putting of the holy water on the casket.
Yeah.
And then Zimmer shows up and grabs it from the priest.
Yeah.
Does his own little like, here's some holy water for you.
Yeah.
And everyone's looking at him going, oh, well, I guess he's coming to terms with this loss. Okay, that's nice. And then
he grabs the shovel and is almost like, may I? And they're all like, oh, I guess he's gonna maybe he's Jewish. I don't know.
He's gonna throw the first spadeful of dirt onto it. Yeah. Sure, why not?
And instead he picks this thing up like a javelin and throws it into the coffin, impaling the body inside.
Oh my god.
I was just like, this movie rules. I don't know what's going to happen in the rest of it, but I'm way on board for wherever this is going.
Jams the shovel full through the top of the casket. And then it starts a bubbling blood.
Oh man! And once again, I'm openly applauding, going like, "We're back on track, Hammer." After Phantom of the Opera, holy shit!
And when they see that blood, everyone, of course, in the funeral procession gets the fuck out of there, including the priest who does like throw a sign of the cross and then gets out of there. But everyone's like, ah, and runs.
And then it cuts to Zimmer with a tear coming down his eye. He doesn't want to be doing this.
No. And then we see
the camera moves, pushes in towards the coffin, then dissolves through the coffin, and inside we see the woman who's been impaled with her vampire fangs. Cut to title.
A lovely lady with vampire fangs, and the camera zooms in those fangs. Just like, I mean, this is becoming a Hammer thing. It's instead of, we've had 2 movies where they zoom in on the antagonist's the eyes.
Yeah.
In this case, we zoom in on a mouth. Now, this woman is done. We don't see her ever again. But we zoom in on those vampire fangs.
This is my favorite one, though, the zoom in on vampire, and it's just Hammer Pictures presents, and you're just like, oh, fuck yes.
Kiss of the Vampire.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And I am
again,
on board.
It's a very promising start.
I know, it is. And unfortunately, it sets up not a badass vampire hunting movie from start to finish here that's rip-roaring. And,
no.
You know, this is not Professor Zimmer is not a Van Helsing who's going to duke it out with vampires.
No, ma'am. No, not at all.
We save that for Peter Cushing.
Indeed, we do. But in this case, we have, if nothing else, we have a quick introduction to the 20th century.
Yes, because immediately we cut to our lead couple here puttering down the road in a motor car.
A motor car, which, according to the notes, apparently is a car from 1903. And yeah.
And it's very loud. They can't hear each other over the sound of this thing.
Yeah, exactly. But it is kind of jarring, even though it's an ancient automobile, to suddenly go, oh, not a horse and carriage?
Yeah. No, I liked that. I was that threw me. I was like, oh, there's a motor car in this movie.
Yeah, pretty cool. But it breaks or doesn't break down.
Runs out of gas because there aren't service stations everywhere you drive.
And I don't know why you would undertake a long drive in a brand new ancient automobile.
I will say it is the first of many instances of Gerald being a complete moron throughout this movie.
Jeez, I'll say this much: this is maybe a better part for this guy.
Edward D'Souza,
who was Harry, the bland hero in quotes.
And good Lord, is he still bland in this one?
He is Dick Foran. He is Hammer's Dick Foran. Yeah, but he's very plumb and like, oh, well, I'll just have to walk to the next town and get some petrol or get us a lift. So, hello, my newlywed bride, Marianne. You'll have to stay here in the car. She goes, can I come with you? No, you'll be perfectly fine.
And
bye-bye.
Edward D'Souza, working actor to this very day.
Good Lord.
I know. What does this guy have? But he's still in movies.
He's not terrible, but he's not good.
No, but he's continued to do stuff and still with
us. Man, he was in the Borgias.
Yeah.
From like 2012. Man, that's nuts.
He was in the Golden Compass movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's in some version of Jane Eyre, one of them.
Wow.
Does a lot of Hammer retrospective stuff I see here. Does a lot of narration for look back at Hammer stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
A lot of documentary stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, he was in a film called She-Wolf of London, which is not which was actually a TV series.
Yeah.
I want to look
that up. Did they remake it as a TV series?
This was a TV series in 1990, 1991.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Oh, Mick Garris created it. I like Mick Garris.
Yeah, I might have to look this up. I don't think it has... Well, it actually has a werewolf in it, so it has nothing to do with the Universal function.
There's a guy in rat makeup. Okay, now I definitely need to see this.
We have basically carved out another chunk of time for ourselves.
We'll have to watch all 22 episodes of She-Wolf of London from the early 90s.
But anyway, so this is Gerald and Marianne.
Gerald's the real villain of this movie.
He is a fucking idiot. He's a fucking idiot and doesn't deserve Marianne.
Oh, he married way up. I
will say this. I know that she shows up in another Hammer film, which we won't be doing, called The Reptile. Mm-hmm. And that one is batshit crazy. I do remember The Reptile. But I like her. I wish she had been in more of these. She's one I was taken with. I'm not saying she's quite our new Valerie Hobson, but I just
Nobody ever will be.
No one ever will be. But I liked her little gap teeth, and she was just delightful. So I'm a big fan. But so she's left alone in the broken down
I thought she
car,
was fine.
and then we see that she's being
I do like.
spied
She
on.
says, "Should I go with you?" He goes, "No, no, you'll be much safer here in the car." This is not a modern car where she's contained in a thing. She's sitting prey basically.
Well, he says you'll be perfectly safe.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I'm on a road and nothing would get on this road. But yeah, and what's strange is, okay, this needs to be addressed. We don't know where we are. We never find out where we are.
No.
We do know that these two people are British because other people refer to it. And I will say this is a Hammer film where the people who are supposed to be locals are all doing a European accent. So they're not.
And they call
British.
everybody air or something. So
yeah, exactly. So Germany, Bavaria, Austria, something, possibly. And so that's interesting. But we don't know where we are. But they are honeymooning, and they are British, and they have a car. But
just to be an asshole, basically. Every time the car comes up, they're like, "Ooh, Mr. Fancy in his car."
Well, they're all just like stunned, like, "Oh, I've never seen one of those. Oh, it's crazy."
Yeah.
But
and it's his dad's car.
We don't know what time of day it is, because he leaves, and it seems like it's kind of bright early morning. And she sits there in the car for a while, and she's reading, but then she hears the howling of wolves. Wolves are primarily nocturnal. They usually will hunt at night.
Yep.
But this is still daylight.
That's why they say howling at the moon. Not howling at the sun.
And she's being spied on from a nearby castle by essentially Dracula, but it's not Dracula. It's a guy with a widow's peak.
It's a guy named Dr. Ravna.
Dr. Ravna, and he is looking at her through a telescope. And again, we're not trying to disguise his evil. We know he's evil right off the bat.
He's in a weird castle. He's looking at a woman through a telescope. He looks like a vampire.
But she hears the howling, and so now...
Yeah, and there are wolves during the day where he lives. It's all trouble.
So she starts... she gets out of the car. She starts to run. Like, she's maybe going to run to the castle now because she wants to find some kind of civilization. And she gets stopped by a cloaked figure.
Oh, God. Yeah. She gets stopped by Professor Zimmer.
Professor Zimmer is like, "Hey, lady, you shouldn't be out here."
A tree branch falls at her, too.
Yes. Well, there's wind that gets kicked up. If there's one thing I did like was this movie sort of ties in, like, there are big supernatural themes going on with these vampires, including weather control. That's something I'm always like, Dracula movies tend to ignore the fact that he can also control the weather.
Yeah, very few Dracula movies I've seen have dealt with that.
Yeah, but so we have this wind kick up, the tree branch falls, and Zimmer actually turns out to be...
That's what makes her run, is she's kind of like peering around, and the tree branch falls right next to her, and she's like, "Oh, I gotta get out of here!" and she runs away.
She also hears that wolf. She's very scared.
Either, yeah. And she's stopped by Zimmer, who says, "Go back to your car."
Yeah, it's like, "Go back to your car." I'm like, wouldn't they be calling it an automobile or something? Were they already calling them just cars
I said, "Go
at
back."
this point?
Most of what Zimmer does early in this movie is like, "Get out of here! Get out of here now!"
He's essentially the part that you always see at the beginning of Friday the 13th movie, the crazy local guy going, "You guys going to the camp? Yeah. You should go back home.
Yeah.
Terrible things happen at the camp.
Kids died in that camp. Camp Blood."
So that's exactly
doomed.
what...
Yeah.
That's what Zimmer's doing. He's doing the crazy old dude.
And then just as Zimmer has warned her, Gerald comes back and he's like, "Well, I found a guy to pull our car with his horse."
One of the things that pisses me off about Gerald is he's that type of character, but also the actors playing him this way, where for the longest time, anything weird, disturbing, or seeing your beloved being upset, everything is met with kind of like a "Oh, women.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so delightfully naive and easily scared. Everything's going to be perfectly fine."
So much of the beginning of this movie is just like, no, everything is actively concerning him, just being like, "Oh, pshaw."
He's like, oh, maybe they're a little strange. Oh, they're just odd local people.
So
He's an idiot.
This guy with the horse pulls the car towards the Grand Hotel in town.
Yeah, they make it to the little village, and it has a grand hotel, which of course is anything but.
And the village is deserted.
Yeah, and the guy who used his horse to haul the car there is like, he's like, well, they don't. No one visits this town anymore.
No one ever comes here.
And Gerald goes, why is that? And the guy just looks at him. And then Gerald's like, oh, he wants a tip. And he pays him. And then the guy, he goes, so why doesn't anyone come here? And the guy still doesn't answer, just takes the money and leaves. He just leaves.
Yeah. I did like
and
that
Gerald
scene.
just goes, oh, whatever.
And it seems like this where I'm going like, what do they want me to think about Gerald? Because I'm just like asshole at this point, you know?
I mean, I don't want Marianne to fall under the sway of a vampire cult, but Gerald doesn't deserve her.
No.
He's just a fucking dolt. So anyway, they go in, they get a room from the odd couple that run the place.
Yeah, well, it starts raining all of a sudden, too.
Yep.
And so they run in, and yeah, the guy, Bruno, who's the landlord here at the hotel, is just like, you want a room?
Yeah, he's like, okay.
And all the furniture in the lobby is covered with sheets and stuff, and he's just like, well, I suppose we can do that.
Yeah, so he's like, well, what room do you want? And they're like, I don't know, here's some money. They're like, okay, we'll give you the best room because no one else is in this hotel.
There are no occupants. Or what I have it written here what they say. All rooms are vacant except for that one.
Yeah. But we find out eventually what that's about, and it's not as exciting as you think. And it also proves that Marianne has her faults. She is nosy.
Oh, good lord. Nosy. But yeah, they make a big deal out of he goes to get the guest book, and it's covered in dust, and he has to blow it off to get on there. And he goes outside to get their bags, and he takes the umbrella out, and it's covered in dust. Which I'm like, I'm sorry, the umbrella gets no use because he has no... whatever.
I will say that this movie is making sure you know that everything's covered in dust.
It really is. They're just making a point of like, nobody ever comes here. Apparently, even the people who live here just do nothing.
And I will say, we never really find out where Gerald and Marianne were headed.
No.
Like, what is this? What kind of honeymoon is this? We've got a new car, and we're tooling around just in weird...
His dad's car. He makes it very clear he borrowed the car from his father.
And they're just traveling around Germany or
Gerald
someplace.
Seems like the kind of guy who would say, do you know who my father is?
He does.
I was waiting for that the whole movie. I'm sorry, you can't make my wife a vampire. Do you know who my father is?
This does. This film, again, is another Hammer movie walking the class line and showing you that if you're below a certain level as far as society, you are fearful, superstitious, and usually complicit in evil goings on. And if you are above a certain financial level, you're in on it and are probably evil. Or visiting idiots from another country who are prey.
Yeah. No character in one of these films I've wanted to get it more than Gerald.
It's pretty much.
This guy needs to die.
I'm with you on this.
It's pretty much all his fault what happens. He keeps putting them in the line of danger constantly.
Though they are aided by Bruno and his wife. His wife, who
Anna
runs the
comes
place
into this scene, who's just this shell-shocked, broken woman.
Yeah, she's they're suspiciously like vague, but also, as John points out, she just seems bereft constantly. Yeah. She is just always in mourning, and you're like, okay, well, probably a vampire got her daughter. Turns out later on, a vampire got her daughter. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
That blew I was mouth agape. I gasped when I said, what?
What?
That
got a daughter?
Because
that was taken by vampires.
They go up to their room, and Bruno takes her aside and goes, hey, just for while they're here, just forget about it.
Yeah, just play along.
Just be normal for like a couple days.
Just a couple days. We'll make some lunches and dinners for him and get them the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And then Oh, right away. They're hot and heavy, Gerald and Marianne, because they're smooching up a storm here in this, in there once they get up to the hotel room.
They are clearly newlyweds because pretty much anytime they're alone, they're smooching.
And I mean, that's as far as anything goes. They are smooching.
Well, I saw the British cut,
Oh,
and
that has the hardcore, unsimulated sex scenes.
It's very, again, for 1963. I was like, yeah. I did not think I'd be seeing this.
And no complaints.
No complaints. It added to the film.
It was. I mean, those scenes were really necessary for the plot. That's
they were necessary. But no. But they are convincingly in love,
yeah.
and whatever.
I mean, as convincing as you can be with this complete lack of charisma that is D'Souza here. What's his name? Edward D'Souza. I'm sorry. This guy brings nothing to the screen.
I say plummy a lot because it is that sort of British character where he's just like going, I say, everything's wonderful. What?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's the British...
and you're my beautiful wife.
He's the British equivalent of one of our Freddies from a Universal movie. This is what a British character like that looks like.
I mean, but the Freddy here has the love interest already. It's just he doesn't deserve her. He's an idiot.
And he never becomes heroic down the stretch. He just stays kind of...
Well, there's this brief moment towards the end where he's Zimmer's accomplice and aide. Yeah, but even then,
what is he doing?
That whole thing
he
sneaks
a book.
out.
Most of what he's saying,
when the spell is he's like going, well, is this going to take a while? Because I kind of want to, and he just ducks out of that room. I was like, fuck you, Gerald. Even then, I was like, are you stepping up?
If you're all good here, you mind if I just go out for a smoke break real quick?
I say, looks like you're busy with all your Satan chanting and whatnot. I just thought I would step out for a quick, maybe a smoke.
Yeah.
Fuck, Gerald. You're right. But almost immediately of them settling in, there's someone comes a calling.
A carriage arrives and drops off a letter, and Gerald's just like, I say, a carriage has arrived. It looks quite fancy, and they've dropped off a letter. And then Bruno comes upstairs and says, this letter came through. He's like, well, that's quite impossible. We've only just arrived.
And knows we're here.
Yeah. And the letter is from Dr. Ravna, the most important man in town, who has invited them to dinner that night and says, you'll like it better than the shit they serve at that hotel.
He says that in the letter, and what's funny is that Bruno goes, oh, no, that's all right. Yeah. My wife is a wonderful woman, but she does suck at cooking, so you're better off.
Because Gerald's reading the letter, and he goes, yes, I say you would enjoy the dinner much more than... Well, I won't read that part.
It was like, oh, that's fine. Yeah. Especially if it's talking about my wife's shitty cooking.
Yeah. No, he's right. She can't cook with shit.
Bruno, at this point, I'm pretty much... Even though Bruno is a chatty, nice enough guy, at this point, I'm like, oh, wait, is everyone in town in on this thing?
Yeah.
Because it reminded me a little bit of the Brides of Dracula, where everyone in town is like, yeah, we just supply chicks for the vampires up on the
got
hill.
Another hottie in town, let the vampire master know.
Pretty much. So like, well, that sounds wonderful. Yeah, let's go visit the rich man and have better food.
It really is Gerald going like, shouldn't we? And then she's like, well, I don't have anything to wear. He's like, oh, wait, I forgot to read this next part in the letter that says, come as you are, it's totally casual.
It says here, totes cash.
And he's just like, well, isn't that great? Then we don't have to worry about anything. But I hate that in screenwriting when it's like, but we don't have this. Oh, wait, there's more to the letter that answers your specific question.
I should have read further. And it says here.
Ah, yes, he directly addresses what you just asked in this very next sentence.
And it does say here, strangely, please leave your crucifixes at home. Well, okay, if he's an odd one. We certainly will.
Yeah, I mean, way too much of this movie is this guy going, well, they are strange, but they're certainly nice.
Here's another little thing, guys. We've now dealt with 3 in a row of these films that have been written by Anthony Hines, the producer, under his name of John Elder. What I'm saying is, again, how much we miss Jimmy Sangster, and hope he comes back.
Sangster.
This isn't terrible. And there are parts of the last two movies, specifically Brides of Dracula, I liked more.
Yeah.
Phantom's not good.
Phantom's bad.
But Anthony Hines just not saying.
No, Curse of the Werewolf has a lot of pacing problems. And it does seem like this thing with the letter is a small thing, but it's indicative of the kind of lazy writer he comes off as more than Sangster. Where you're just like,
right.
Oh, God. Sangster's
too
busy.
Do Brides of Dracula. That was Sangster.
That was
Sangster.
People. Yeah, but Sangster got rewritten on it.
Yeah, he did.
Sangster's too busy. He's in LA pitching a 3-parter for Gilligan's Island.
Oh my God, he actually could have been the guy who wrote the episode with the mad doctor.
Yeah, essentially the haunted house episode. Yeah.
Yeah, the castle that's on another island very close by that they didn't know until that moment.
I know, I do love. Wait a minute, there's a whole other island right over there with a giant castle on it.
Swapping the brain of a gorilla with the skipper, Jesus, and it's like, oh boy.
I do say it'll be quite shenanigans when the skipper's brain is in this gorilla. I have some experience with brain swapping stories.
Oh yes. Here's the thing. Again, ignore all my film work. Yeah. This is a new me. This is a new Jimmy. This is a Jimmy who just wants to tell wonderful American jokes about brain swapping with Gilligan and the skipper. I think I bring a lot of experience to the table.
We get Ginger into some kind of gauzy nightgown at some point?
Now, I understand this probably won't make it through the second draft, but there is quite an intense makeout scene between Ginger and Marianne. In flimsy nightgowns.
But I swear it is so contingent to the plot. It really needs to be there. Like the whole thing doesn't make sense without it.
Jimmy, we do like it. It is similar to the idea you pitched us for Petticoat Junction, where you had two of the daughters making out in flimsy nightgowns.
Yes, that another integral plot point.
Oh, American television, you're so prudish.
Talk to
Jimmy
me in
Sangster.
40 years when HBO's a thing.
I'm going to have myself frozen so I'm still alive.
Okay, here's the thing. Tony Soprano. I love all these scenes in the bada bing.
Except for I think they could use a fog machine in there. You know, an eerie fog rolls in. Yeah. A New Jersey fog.
Yes.
I think they call it. No, they don't. They don't talk about the New Jersey fog. Well, they should.
Yes, they should. Maybe Christopher meets a vampire. I don't know.
Jimmy, we shouldn't have thawed you out. We're putting you back on ice.
Polly Walnuts is bitten by a werewolf.
Polly Walnuts really could have been a werewolf.
I mean, he's already partway there with the hair.
In a second. Yeah, the hair. God damn,
he's already mid-transformation.
I want Polly Walnuts as a werewolf, and I want it right now.
Hey, there's that Sopranos movie coming up. Who knows?
In my head.
Maybe that's
all
in there.
I want now. Maybe that's in there.
Tony Sirico is the Wolfman.
You guys remember that weird time in the 70s when we got involved with the supernatural? There was werewolves and shit. That was weird. That was really weird.
I would be so fucking happy if the Sopranos prequel movie was about them interacting with supernatural forces.
Again, if Baywatch could spawn Baywatch nights, anything is possible. If lifeguards can go to fighting vampires, anything's possible.
Big pussy vampire hunter.
Stop it, because you keep minting gold over there. Stop it.
Oh, I know. HBO's going to steal all my ideas. Yeah.
They're listening to this podcast right now.
So anyway, they roll up on the creepy castle, and they meet first. Let's see. They get brought in, and they're like, boy, this place is pretty fancy. And Dr. Ravna, in classic vampire fashion, just appears at the top of the stairs. He's like, well, What did you expect? It was, large on the outside. Didn't you think the rooms would be just as big? Some bullshit like that. Anyway, basically, this whole time going, I'm not Dracula.
Yes. By the way, not Dracula TM.
Because especially when he first introduced and the camera's back a ways, I'm like, oh my God, he's a ringer for Christopher Lee.
He's a tall, thin, stately, aristocratic guy with a widow's peak.
Once again, it's a passing resemblance to Christopher
and
Lee.
He again, the direction's pretty good of this film, but I feel the director did encourage them. It's like, I don't want you just to seem ominous. I want you to literally almost twirl the mustache and just evilly glare, because he comes down and he says, you thought because the outside of this place was all decrepit that the inside would be too.
That's what he says. Yeah.
He goes, but no, I take care of this place and I have a great eye for things of beauty.
Yeah.
Like the long pause, and he's looking Marianne up and down. He's like, beauty. And he just essentially should just look at the camera and go,
I'm terribly sorry. That comes out every once in a while.
It is so.
I have a condition.
Telegraph. Big neon letters.
Yeah, and so I do like that. Joe's like, well, say, good sir, how did you know we were in town to invite us dinner? He's like, well, I spied your motor car through my telescope.
Yeah, I was peeping.
I was just about to come down for help when it seems like you'd already found it anyway. So unnecessary. I like that. It's like, well, wait, wasn't he gone for quite a while when you were watching her through the telescope?
That's true. Well, no, he does say, he doesn't say when he spotted them. He's like, I saw that you had trouble with your car, and I was just about to come down and help you when I saw that help had already arrived.
Right.
So he doesn't go, I was watching you for literally like half an hour.
I made the wind gust, so hoping your top might blow off.
He's almost that way.
Yeah.
And
this is a very horny vampire.
And we're gonna meet his son, who also is like Mr. Glary, ominous looks.
His son
guy.
is a straight up serial killer looking dude.
Yeah.
Because we go into the next room and he's just Carl is his son, who's playing piano and just staring forward, wide eyed. You're like,
well, what's hilarious is he says, and this is a first in a vampire film, especially, of course, because Dracula is not like meet the family. But we have our Dracula figure saying, "Yeah, let me introduce you to my family."
Because this vampire fucks, man. He fucks.
I think he became vampire after he had the kids. But regardless, his daughter's there, Savina. And son Carl. Yeah. Carl is playing piano before they enter the room, and what's weird, or not weird, but they let Carl finish. Like the guest, he doesn't go, kids, stop playing. Let me introduce you to the guest. They let Carl finish, and then Carl looks up as if he was so entranced with his own music, he doesn't even know there were guests there, because Marianne says, "Oh, that was wonderful," and he was like, "What? Who's here?"
Well, let's just, I mean, Carl's got some social issues. Let's be honest. He's not the most social of fellas. And Sabina's a absolute nothing in this movie. She
is very attractive, and her two or three line readings, one of them is so bad that it should be shown in classes as don't ever read a line like this. She is, I think, another, I hate to keep saying this, but another model that they brought in for a small part.
Jackie Wallace. Wallace has a couple credits, but she works from 1954 to 1964, and then that's it. She's still alive, but that's like, it's over.
Yeah, not good. But
she's definitely the biggest title on her IMDb. Looks like a lot of BBC series and stuff.
Carl is played by Barry Warren, who we'll see again in Frankenstein Created Woman.
Yeah. As the woman. It's a stretch, but it's incredible. No.
Well, it's interesting you should say that. Because apparently, before dying in 1994, Barry Warren did undergo a sex change operation and lived for his last 5 years as Claire Warren.
Is that right?
So, yeah.
I was in no way referencing that.
No, I know. That's why I was sitting there going, John, did you Did you jump ahead? Did you read his IMDb page?
I looked up nothing. I googled Jackie Wells though, and there are some very saucy modeling pictures of her.
Oh, of course. You mean Wallace?
Wallace, sorry, Jackie Wallace. Yes.
Yeah, no, she is. She's a looker. I mean, let's face it, folks. We're going to be getting almost nonstop beautiful women. What a shame. Throughout the rest of the Hammer films, it's always great when it turns out to be someone who has genuine acting talent. Yeah. And so
I mean,
it's
always similar to watching the early Bond movies where you're just hoping anybody can deliver a line in any capacity.
Exactly. So and actually I think the Broccolis and Hammer, I think they shared a casting pool, especially for models, because you'll very often it's like, oh, this person was up for this. Oh, Carolyn Monroe. Well, of course, she was in a Bond film, and of course, she's over here in Hammer, and blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But, again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when it comes to line readings, you kind of hope there's actual talent there, which is why, not that she blew me away, but why I really like our Marianne here, because she has intelligence, and she can do pretty well. It's Jennifer Daniel plays Marianne. But anyway, they get introduced to Ravna's family.
Yeah.
And Carl is instantly creepy.
Oh, I mean, just a total creep.
Marianne but she's taken. Just the fact that the guy's playing music is like, oh, that's so nice. Yeah. Play more. And Dr. Ravna's like,
I've never heard music before.
Dr. Ravna's like, yeah, sure, but after dinner.
Yeah.
And dinner's all about getting his guests drunk.
And so they go to dinner. And then it cuts to the graveyard, and who is this that's sneaking around the graveyard? Is this Tanya? What? There's another vampire woman.
Yeah, it's Tanya.
Yeah, it's Tanya. That's what I thought. So it's Tanya. But they have her dressed in also a red dress. She kind of looks like Sabina, and I was confused for a little bit.
Oh, I wasn't. Because they don't look that much alike, but they are both wearing red dresses. The thing with Tanya's dress is they clearly, because you also see her skulking around in the castle before she goes outside.
Yes, you do.
So she's spying on this little dinner party, but she's clearly not part of it.
Right.
And her dress, though red, is clearly a peasant type dress. So she's not of their social class.
So she's sneaking
she's
around.
Not allowed to hang out with them.
She's sneaking around this graveyard, and this is kind of an effectively creepy scene where she's talking to this freshly dug grave and is like, I don't understand, why haven't you come out to play with us? We're always so excited to see you. And then
she apparently missed the fact that her person she's talking to got a shovel in the chest.
They didn't hear about this. That didn't reach the Ravna castle.
Apparently
everyone was screaming and running away from
her. What's up? Why aren't you out? It's about time for you to come out and play.
And then she starts digging through the dirt and finds the handle of the shovel, which, by the way, I love that he impaled this coffin and then they just dumped dirt. They didn't move that shovel at all.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? I guess she was a vampire and you don't take stakes out. Or
actually, in this case, I just looked here at her will. This was exactly how she wanted to be buried. So.
It's strange. I love that grave, too. It was literally like 4 feet deep.
Yeah. Of course.
They don't worry too much about scavenging animals there.
Yeah, it's deep enough. They got some lazy grave diggers in this town. Let's call it. So
we gotta get back to the pub. We've got to have a funny comedic interlude.
You know, there really aren't a lot of funny comedic interludes in this movie. I will say that thankfully were because that's a Sangster bit.
I will say this: Anthony Hines, at least, seems to be like, yeah, that's more Jimmy's thing. And
except for he did give us the hilarious washwomen of Phantom.
What did you find? Oh, I found some lovely dirt. Oh, I found a dust bunny the size of my head.
Mm-hmm. I thought Michael Palin was brilliant in that scene. And
now we're back to Tanya.
Yeah, exactly. Who's digging, and she's very concerned and very upset because her friend has been impaled. And then Zimmer grabs her arm. He's in the graveyard too, and he's like, "Not so fast, vampire lady." and they scuffle a little bit. This old man scuffles with this young woman for a little bit, and it's
Yeah.
awkward.
Well, that's not the word you used off the air. You said that was the hottest scene of the entire movie.
I need more of this.
You actually turned it into a meme that I think you just have a GIF running on a loop on your computer.
Yes, I do. And I just occasionally, you may hear me trail off a little while as I get lost in it.
That's some good yes-anding, John. That's good.
They really
you ran. Oh, gotta go.
Yeah.
Oh, Zimmer.
Yeah. Oh, he's almost. Oh, nope. She got him. She ends up biting him in the wrist here.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. This isn't a vampire trying to feed. She's just using her fangs as like an offensive weapon.
And I love the way Zimmer's just like, ooh, hey, ooh.
It's like, oh, God damn it. And she laughs at him.
That's smart.
Instead of finishing him off, she just laughs and runs away. And I thought, that's an odd scene in a vampire movie, but I kind of like it because it's just her going, fuck you, old man.
Yeah.
I can kill you anytime I want, but now I'm just biting you and running away.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
And thankfully, we saw Brides of Dracula a while back, so we know exactly what he needs to do here, and it's no problem.
Well, it is a little different here because that's not holy water. It's alcohol.
This dude lights his arm on fire.
Douses the wound, which is in his wrist.
Yeah.
He douses it with alcohol. Mm-hmm. Then he knocks back the alcohol because he's getting ready to do this thing. And
the fakest arm I've ever seen makes its way into a flame. All of a sudden, his skin is a totally different color, and his fingers aren't moving at all. And he just, I did think this was insane. He just lights his arm on fire.
Yeah, Van Helsing puts holy water on his neck wound and then uses a brand. Cauterizes it with a brand.
Badass, man. This guy at every turn is not as badass as Van Helsing.
I will say it takes a lot of courage just to go, you know what? Just shove my arm in the fire. Here we go.
Was it necessary to burn the entire arm? Doesn't it seem like just hitting the wound itself? No, I got to light the whole thing on. His whole forearm is on fire.
And then he goes, and falls down and passes out. Yeah. As you would.
Yeah.
As you would.
Not as cool as dumping holy water, though, and cauterizing it. Man, I miss Peter Cushing.
We'll see him again soon.
I know. We're a couple movies away from him coming back, and then we'll have
I think we're only one movie away.
Yeah, we have one movie before we're back to Cushing.
Is it next week in Evil Frankenstein?
No, next week is very much about a mummy.
Oh, you're right. Damn. Yeah. Man, I was so excited I glossed over this mummy.
No, yeah, we got another mummy to talk about next week.
All right, sorry folks. Yeah. I got your hopes up, and that's my bad.
Yep. So then we cut back to Ravna's place, where they're walking from having finished dinner into the drawing room, and there's just this one line. He says it mostly off screen, and he just says, well, yeah, so anyway, the medical experiment I was performing went terribly wrong, and I was run out of town. Yeah. I thought, wait a minute, is this guy also Dr. Frankenstein?
The folks in the book on the Hammer films that I have, they say that is one thing they praise about this movie is they like how vague it is about where does the vampirism come from. Have they been turned? Was Ravna turned? Is it a satanic occult thing where he called up demons and turned into a vampire?
We're talking about the devil later in the movie, so maybe.
But they also have this line. They're like going, perhaps it's due to an experiment. Because he says, yes, as they're walking down the stairs.
Shit,
is
he a Morbius type?
He's Michael Morbius. It's by the way, I was reading one of those Werewolf by Night comics, and it had a crossover with Morbius.
Yeah.
And it was an issue where Morbius meets up with his old flame for the first time since he turned. And he's, in the costume with the Dracula collar and the wings under. And he goes, it's me. And she's like, and he goes, it's Morbius. I'm like, okay, here's the thing. Yeah, his skin's white now and his eyes are red, but you're going to forget that pug nose he has and that weird facial hair. There's no way you could, he's in a leotard now. Yeah, that's maybe jarring. Mm-hmm. But also, if you meet an old flame, do you use your last name? Be like me running into an ex-girlfriend going, it's me, Jones.
Yeah.
Brendan Jones.
That's what I do. It's Campbell.
Oh, okay. Well, it's Campbell.
To be fair, I make anyone I date call me Campbell all the time. I don't respond to John, so
It's me, sir. No, that's terrible. Anyway, that was
feels
way
like
off
something
track.
Carl would do.
But I love that we have.
That's one of my favorite parts of this movie is just that tossed away line here, and you're like, "Hang on, I need to hear more about this."
And he goes, "Well, an experiment of mine went wrong, and that's why I'm no longer welcome in my hometown." It's what he's saying. And you're like, tell me more about that.
Who in the world would let that just pass in conversation?
Because they don't have time for that. They don't have time for that because we got to hear one of Carl's original compositions.
Oh, for Christ's sake! There's too much piano playing in this movie.
The only thing I like about this scene is this is where we get the impression, if we didn't already have it, that obviously the entire family are vampires and they are actively like seducing.
Well, because
as a group,
Ravna says, "Carl, why don't you play one of your compositions?"
Right, and then he starts basically dosing them all with absinthe.
Oh, I do love this green liquid that's just being poured very liberally. It's absinthe with, once again, they're drinking a lot.
Yeah, first it was champagne at dinner, and now we've moved on to absinthe, and we can see that Marianne she's getting tipsy. I gotta say again, our Freddy is just it gets drunker and is just an idiot. And also
the scene later where he gets drunk, though, I'm gonna have a lot to say about it.
I know, but he's standing. This is so weird. Yeah. His newlywed bride is sitting right next to the piano and is clearly entranced by Carl and his music. She's basically like just about to give him a blowjob. She's so wrapped up in it. Meanwhile,
her head did seem to be drifting lower and lower throughout the scene.
Meanwhile, Gerald is standing like 18 feet away, just kind of going, "Yeah, it's pretty good the way he plays the piano. It's pretty good."
He's talking to, and so she's getting entranced by this, and he's talking to Ravna, and Ravna just goes, "Your wife is very lovely."
And he goes, "Yeah, I got lucky.
Yeah, she's a hottie, all right.
I got lucky. She's pretty hot." Yeah. And so yes, and the original composition was actually created by the composer of the score.
It's fine.
And he says to this day, he has, or at least when he gave that interview, probably towards the end of his life, that was often requested, like at parties. He had to keep that one fresh because people loved that piece.
From Kiss of the Vampire.
Like, all right, here's one for the back row. Blah, 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 blah. And he plays the dreary dirge-like thing that he created.
He's just like, I think you'll all know this one.
Sing along. Yeah. You know the unpublished lyrics to it. You've got a kiss like a vampire.
Still mad they didn't use it.
There's something about your fangs. All right, just stop, okay? Just stop right there.
Yeah, I love the idea of it wasn't really requested. In fact, people had often said for him to stop playing it at parties. It really brings the mood down.
So going, don't you know anything from Godspell? I don't know why I cycled back around to Godspell after.
There's something funny about just referencing Godspell, though. I do like a random musical reference.
Well, it would have fit the time period. I'm picturing it the 70s, and someone would have said, "Don't you know Day by Day?" Yeah, no problem.
Day by Day, yeah. Just hard.
Yes, I can play it, but don't you know that I wrote the score to Kiss of the Vampire?
The classic motion picture Kiss of the Vampire.
Surely you know this one.
Here's some of my unused tracks for it.
Here's the 12-inch dance remix. Wiki wiki. Wiki wiki wiki.
Let me just get my turntables out.
Drop the needle. I've got 2 turntables and a microphone.
Yes, Beck stole it from me.
That's right. Man, we've gone off on another weird tangent. But anyway,
they say they should be getting home after Carl is finished, and Marianne is very upset that he has no more music to play. No, play more.
I guess that's it. I guess I'll go back with Gerald.
Yeah. He doesn't have your creepy staring eyes. And so they go, and Carl says, well, fine, let them go. They can't escape.
Yeah.
And Ravna says, yes, I have possession of their motor vehicles, so they can't go anywhere until I say so. Are you getting the sense we're evil? Is that
By the
coming
way,
through?
On the count of 3, we do our laugh. 1, 2, 3, and then the entire family just goes,
Yes, children, join me in a maniacal laugh.
the way I taught you.
No, you're off key, Carl. So they get back to the hotel, and Bruno is so like, oh, didn't you have a good time at Dr. Ravna's? Didn't you just have isn't his house grand? Oh, I'm so excited for you two. Me.
Yeah, but I mean, Bruno has to be in his head going, oh, geez, they're done for. Oh, I sent them the lambs into the wolf's den.
Yes, I did. But at least I can make it seem exciting. They'll have some nice moments in their final days. Then we hear off screen somebody going, hey, we got some more brandy. I want some more brandy in here.
We got drunk Otis scene, and Otis turns out.
Little known fact, this is actually Oliver Reed on the set of Curse of the Werewolf between takes, just on the other stage.
Yeah, like going, did the mics pick that up? All right, we'll just work it into the scene. We'll just work it into the scene. Some brandy. Where? Landlord, where's the brandy?
I do say, is that Lon Chaney Jr.?
How could you afford him?
Come here.
I think for $25 and an Arby's coupon, you could probably get Lon Chaney Jr. by this point.
As long as you pay my tab. No deal. Too much, Lon. Too high. We're not made of money. So they start walking upstairs, Gerald and Marianne, and they hear a woman sobbing, and they look into a room, and there's Anna with clothing. Is this like a baby's clothes? What is she holding?
Possibly baby clothes or possibly wedding dress.
Oh, right, because we do look at the photo is of the girl at a wedding, so maybe it's that. It's a white
Tanya.
dress of some sort that she's cradling. She's like,
when we finally see a picture, we find out it's Tanya is their daughter, and Tanya in
their
that picture
hot vampire daughter.
Is dressed for a wedding.
Yeah, it's another Hammer hottie.
Another Hammer hottie.
That's a book. That's a photograph book I'm putting together called Hammer Hotties.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I get a copy of that, right?
Oh yeah. We comp you one. I thought you were gonna write the foreword for it.
Yes, I will. When it comes to cinematic hotties, no one quite hit the mark the way Hammer did. Hammer had a real eye for the hotties.
Look at how gauzy this nightgown is.
This one's very translucent.
Yeah. And so they're like,
we're still not quite there yet. This is 1963.
No, we're getting there. This movie has implied nudity.
It has implied nudity.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, well, that's weird. She seems really upset. And they continue on to their room. And then it cuts to the next day, and it's raining. And this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Gerald doing his morning knee bends.
Yep.
Which reminds me of the if you can read Roger Moore's journal from the making of Live and Let Die, where he talks about doing his knee bends every morning, which seems like the only exercise Roger Moore probably was doing on the set of those Bond movies. Which I love the man, but
watching Gerald do that, I was like, that's more exercise than I've gotten in this entire pandemic year.
I did think, I wonder how much those knee bends are burning. That seems easy.
Maybe I should start doing that. That's low impact.
And he's like
very
moving his arms to the side, and he's just like, yes, dear, I need to get in my morning calisthenics.
I have to stay, attractive for you since you're being tempted by creepy vampire piano playing guy.
Yeah, I just like, ooh, she was pretty into that guy. I better start working out. I'll start tomorrow morning.
Hup ho, knee bends, hup ho.
My calves are burning. So Knock, knock, knock at the door. It's Bruno saying, "Hey, do you want to come downstairs and have breakfast with my total bummer of a wife?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, and this." They're like, "Yeah, sure." And he says, "Yeah, well, breakfast will be ready in about 10 minutes." He leaves. These two start making out, and Gerald has to add in well, maybe 15.
Maybe 15 minutes.
That's as long as I can last.
We can probably go easily 5 to 6 minutes of hot off-screen lovemaking.
Yeah. Then I'm going to need a breather for about 10.
I mean, you saw me doing those knee bends.
Those knee bends took a lot out of me, so don't expect much.
There goes all of my... That's it. I got nothing else. Nothing else in the battery.
No, we can fool around, but you're going to have to do most of the work. And by most, I mean all the work.
I'm going to lay here very sexily. Anyway, you do whatever you need to do.
Keep going. If it looks like I'm nodding off, I'm just resting my eyes.
Man, they have a great relationship. I'm glad they survived the end of this.
Yeah, I'm so happy they're together at the end of this thing so they can have more boring sex later.
Spoiler. They both survived.
Yeah, I know, which kind of bummed me out, actually.
Keep giving this away.
Yeah.
I'm the worst.
You're the absolute worst.
Again, I'm hearing people turn off their radios.
So we go down to the little breakfast nook, and Bruno is like, "Damn it, Anna, you set another place again." And this, of course, triggers everything that she's been dealing with emotionally, and she starts crying. And then Gerald and Marianne come downstairs. They're like, "Oh, look, an extra place. Is that other lodger going to be joining us?" They said, "Oh, no, he doesn't eat." They said, "Well, how does he stay alive?" "Bourbon and sour cream."
Yeah.
And I was yucking it up at that line.
I wasn't yucking it up. I was almost heaving. I was dry heaving because that combo just makes me really...
Yes, he makes me mix them together for him in a large highball.
I know he wasn't implying that it was a mixed drink, but all I could think of was literally bourbon and sour cream.
Yeah. And give me half a glass of bourbon and a couple of dollops of sour cream in there.
God.
Lon Chaney, get out of here!
I want it to be gravy consistency, kind of a drizzling consistency. Can you get it to that point where it's thick?
I like a thick bourbon.
I don't want to swallow. I just want it to run down the back of my throat.
And they do mention something about, like, well, surely the villagers around here must enjoy the bar you have. They're like, "Oh, no. Nobody comes to the bar." And they're like, "Okay."
I will say that Gerald...
this is where I'm starting to get like, I get it. There's nobody in the town. It's creepy. Like, we keep hitting these buttons.
We got it. We got it in the first, the second scene. We understand this, or like the second, third scene.
Yeah.
Gerald is he's an insensitive asshole. Anyone could tell that there's some kind of big emotional issue that these virtual strangers who run this place are dealing with, and you don't just keep pressing that button as just a clueless stranger going, "Who's that for? Like a dead kid or something?" You have like a dead kid.
I did want her to be like, "Oh, extra place at the table, huh?" And then she runs off crying. I almost wanted him to be like, "What's her problem?"
He is that clueless. I don't like Gerald.
No, Gerald, you can't like Gerald. He's terrible. I mean, and it's a mixture of performance and writing here. Because I can't say it's the actor's fault entirely, because the part is horribly written, but he is bringing nothing to it as well.
Just sort of this chummy, sort of vacant,
get this
cheerful
guy out of here. He was horrible in Phantom of the Opera. He's terrible in this.
One small glimmer towards the end of the movie when it becomes The Lady Vanishes, where we finally see him get to play a different level, like going,
"Yeah,
what do you mean? What are you talking about? My wife."
When he turns into a protagonist from the Twilight Zone, who's like, I don't understand. She was right here, and the clothes on why they're gone.
It's totally The Lady Vanishes. It's totally a rip, and I was like, or a little bit like George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life. Like, what do you mean?
What are you talking about?
That's my wife. Oh, she's not your wife, George. You were never born. It's a little bit like that.
I keep forgetting that.
I keep forgetting I was never born. But yeah, but mostly he plays at this one note, even when people are kind of giving him like serious things to consider. I would have been suspicious
just a delightful chap for most of the picture.
Yeah, again, he takes all the weird, ominous kind of creep vibe from Ravna at face value, like, oh, he's just a wonderful, eccentric guy.
He welcomed me to his house. He said he was happy to see me. He's not up to anything. So anyway, this is when Marianne starts poking around. Which I just thought, my God, she saw this woman crying the night before and is instantly like, oh, I'll just open up her secret cubby and start looking at all the stuff she was upset about.
That's bad writing, unless they had earlier established that Marianne, though a generally good person, is very nosy. Yeah. Instead, this just happens, and I'm sitting there as a viewer going, Marianne, what are you doing?
Yeah.
No one does that. You don't sneak into a stranger's room that isn't yours, then start going through their drawers to figure out what the mystery is.
Then Gerald walks by and she's like, Gerald, get over here. Look at this. It's their dead daughter.
I figured it out. Yeah. Dead daughter. Totally.
Oh, so that was a problem at breakfast.
She could have just said it.
Fuck. I mean, at this point, fuck Marianne, too. What is wrong with you people?
You deserve to have an entire family of vampires swoop down on you.
Yeah, I'm kind of rooting for the vampires at this point. She's looking at that. They look at the photos. It's Tanya. It's the vampire lady. And we're like, oh, I guess this all adds up. Right. This brilliantly constructed thriller that is Kiss of the Vampire.
Kept me on the edge of my seat, man. This thing, I was like, what is going on?
This thing has high points, but as a movie, it the screenplay doesn't quite, like, it just barely works, but they have to do some clumsy stuff in it. So then Gerald goes outside, and there's Professor Zimmer, and he's like, well, you seem to know what's going on. Why is everybody so concerned about all this? And Zimmer's just like, just get out of town.
He does. It's great. He hasn't this is something where I mean, I kind of like the idea of a vampire clan or secret society being so powerful that even people who are good and decent are under their sway and become complicit. That's an interesting idea.
I like it too.
If you write it better. And it's not here. No. But that's interesting. But what I never understand in these movies, and it's not just this one, but other movies, Zimmer knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. He knows vampires exist. He knows what's going on, and he knows that Ravna is probably going to be seducing, trapping, feeding on the couple. So instead of just going, get out of here, maybe be a bit more explicit, maybe offer some more explanations instead of just being cryptic.
Well, his goal never seems to be to protect others. It's just to destroy these people. However many people they kill in the lead up to his thing,
Yeah, it's more revenge based, specifically due to the loss of his daughter. Because it's not
like he tried to save the woman in the. Maybe he did. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like he did. It seems like I'll just deal with her now that she is a vampire.
Well, I think that was his daughter.
Oh,
I believe that the one we saw at the very beginning. That's why they're like, oh, he's been drinking
this shit.
No, I mean, I think they've had other.
But I'm saying, was he already on to vampires at that point, or was that what started him on this quest?
Oh, it may have started him, which means he's probably still.
That wasn't that long ago. So this guy's just a couple, because she just now dug up the Tanya. Well, just now dug up.
It may have had to have been longer than that, because somehow he has all this expertise about occult matters.
He talks about hunting Ravna from place to place. He says, I followed him. So
maybe that wasn't his daughter.
I don't know what's going on. This guy sucks.
Let's not have this argument again. But no, I think you're right. The fact that he's been chasing around means he's fully aware. But again, that doesn't explain
Van Helsing is what I'm saying.
It's just like the dude in the Friday the 13th things. Instead of saying, if you go to that camp, you're doomed, you're all going to die.
Yeah.
You could actually say, no, we're pretty sure there's a killer who's still there. And pretty much anytime teenagers go to that place, they get hacked up. So you probably should go home.
I do not understand why at Crystal Lake the police are not just constantly combing the woods looking for Jason.
Or just, after the first year, burn the place down.
I will say, actually, though, my favorite beginning to any of those is Jason Goes to Hell, where they send in a nubile young FBI agent to trap Jason, and then they just blow him to pieces.
They do a full FBI SWAT team swoop down with helicopters and rocket launchers. It's pretty awesome.
They fire like 200 rounds into him and then hit him with a grenade launcher.
I do think that's one of the best openings.
I love that scene so much, and I'm just like, oh shit!
It's bonkers. It's very self-aware.
Yes,
bonkers.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to take that seriously.
I just love the idea of pitching that to that agent. Okay, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go up to this abandoned camp. Make sure you take your clothes off, take a shower, and wait for this guy to chase you.
That was part of her training. That was part of her training. They're like going, look, here's the thing. This is what attracts him. You're going to have to smoke some pot, or at least make sure the smell of it wafts out.
Yeah.
You're going to have to undress. You're going to have to
probably joint by an open window and just waving it around.
Probably going to have to take a long naked shower because we don't know how long it will take to draw his attention.
We have installed cameras. They're for your own security. All right.
Don't worry, our agents are waiting right outside the first moment he shows up.
Yeah.
No.
In fact, you have to let him chase you to this area, at which point we will then murder him.
Then we'll trigger the floodlights and hit him with everything we got. But anyway, Zimmer's irresponsible. He could have said vampires from the drop.
Instead, he's just like, get out of here.
Get out of here. I'm going to be purposely vague.
Yeah.
So they don't. They don't get out of it.
Until the absolute last minute in this movie, he's vague, basically.
Right.
And so then at this point, Carl and Sabina roll up to the hotel. And I guess because it's under cloud cover, they're fine. Because they talk about, we can't stay long because the weather will change. And we're vampires. Wink, wink, wink.
Well, I mean, and Ravna himself was doing the telescope peeping during the day.
Yeah.
We're getting the impression that we're playing fast and loose with vampire rules.
As long as they stick to shade, basically, and not direct sunlight, they're okay.
Sure. Yeah, maybe not. Because I mean, Dracula himself can walk out in daylight in the books. Mm-hmm. Sorry, guys, he can.
He's a day walker.
He's a day walker.
I have thought about, at some point, we are going to get to those Blade movies on this podcast.
Yeah, we'll have to. Mm-hmm. Man, does it hurt when Dracula finally shows up. Yeah. And I like that actor, too.
Yeah, but Dominic Purcell, not a bad choice, just a bad...
Mm-hmm.
Well, that movie's rife with bad decisions.
Yep.
But those first two, awesome.
Yeah, I'll go with you there.
So they come in and they're like, "Oh, we're so happy to be seeing you here. We do have bad news, however. Father sent for more petrol, but it won't be here till days from now."
Oh, such a delay in the petrol. So you should probably come hang out with us.
Yeah, we're having a grand old party, a big fancy party this weekend. And they said, well,
but
once
the thing
again...
is, our pianist only knows 2 notes.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. It does become Eyes Wide Shut, but we'll get there.
Yeah. It's a big fancy party, and they're like, well, we'd love to come, but we don't have anything to wear. They're like, no, don't you worry. You'll borrow our clothes.
We have I have a suit that looks exactly like mine, and there's this beautiful red dress that my sister can loan you, and Anna, who's very sad and not doing anything here at the hotel, she can
Anna, get out
that
here.
To you, alter it.
Get out here, Anna. Stop moping in the back and sew up this dress.
You're right. I'm sorry. Okay.
And so then
I just miss my daughter.
Zimmer comes in and sort of like, I love like all the music just drops out and all sound, and it's just like the two Carl and Sabina looking at Zimmer looking back at them, and this like, what are we gonna do? Because it has that, it's like that moment in an action movie where then everybody's gonna pull out guns. It's sort of that like everybody staring at each other, and then and then Zimmer's just like, it's so nice to see the weather's getting better. It's getting quite sunny outside. And with no chill, Carl and Sabina's like, we have to go right now. Goodbye, everybody.
What's that, Mother? Yes. I thought your mother was dead. Oh, no, I heard her. Have to go. Bye-bye.
Distinctly, that's right. And they bolt out of this place. We're totally not vampires.
Totally not vampires. TM.
Then it just cuts to Gerald and Marianne in their fancy party clothes. I mean, Gerald's in his fancy suit, and Marianne comes out in this red dress that Anna has tailored for her. Anna says nothing. I think there's a meek like, yes, I agree.
That's really good, by the way.
Don't go up there. There are vampires.
Probably shouldn't.
Vampires took my daughter.
I really miss her. Okay. Bye-bye.
No, I'll still help you get ready to go to the place of the people who murdered her. Anyway, bye. Yeah. So they're
What's that, Anna? Nothing.
Oh, yeah. She just starts crying in the corner, and they're like, why are you so upset, Anna? And Bruno turns to Gerald and just goes, maybe you and I should get a drink down at the bar. Let the women cry together.
Jesus.
And then they're going out to the carriage to go to the party, and old boozehound Zimmer comes stumbling out of the darkness going, hey, you better be careful up there.
Get out. Get out of the place.
And I did think, boy, at this point, it's just now he's drunk and stumbling around. And get ready, because we're about to see a hell of a lot more drunk stumbling in this movie.
I like the drunk stumbling. Are you kidding me? It's where the movie finally picks up.
I'm just like, man, this vampire hunter sucks once again. Where he's just like, how did you go up there? Yeah, bad stuff up there.
Weirdly, I do think that's an intentional, like,
because you
want
to make him not. Well, it's an intentional veer away from Van Helsing. I think it also makes it so you're just like, I'm not going to listen to this asshole. He's drunk.
Well, yeah, okay, and that's another logical choice. However, we don't have anyone in this movie to get behind. The only thing, because Gerald is awful and everyone hates him. Zimmer he's determined, but he's vague and he's drunk.
Yeah.
And he's still just a side character. He hasn't stepped up yet.
You're just going like, this guy can't do it.
No. And so the best that we have is a concern for Marianne. I think at the end of the day, at the end of the movie, we're like, I don't know who the hero is.
Worried about this woman,
I just don't want her to be seduced by the
sweet little innocent Marianne
vampire sex cult.
Yeah.
But she's about to be seduced by Vampire Sex Cult.
Original
which is
title
the name
for this movie. Oh, Vampire Sex Cult? You guys rule. You rock.
Yeah, we're better than Vampire Weekend because we're a full-on sex cult.
Yeah. You just had one weekend of vampires? We're a whole sex cult of vampires. I would love it. I would love starting a band to have a rivalry with a much more famous and popular band.
Yeah. Rolling Stones? Yeah, we're rolling boulders. Boulders are bigger than stones.
Oh, yeah, it's about time somebody brought the Stones down. They've had it too good for too long.
Literally, too long.
Yeah.
Twice most people's lifetimes.
It's insane how long they've been doing this. And I'm pretty sure some of them actually are dead. They just don't know it. Nobody told
Keith.
The
Vampire Sex Cult.
Yeah. Oh, Keith is definitely in a vampire sex cult.
Yep.
He started it, actually. He started the vampire sex cult.
You guys want to get together, do a little thing with some blood drinking, maybe bring Satan into it?
Isn't he actually in Johnny Depp's band, Hollywood Vampires? Keith Richards?
Jesus.
I think he is. I
don't want to know anything about stars bands. I never want to know about the whatever dog thing that Keanu Reeves was in.
Oh yeah, Dog
what was
Star, I believe it
Dog
was.
Star.
Yeah. He was just the bassist though. I appreciate that he was just the bassist.
Oh, did you hear that bassist? The way John just totally threw shade at all of you?
It didn't feel like a vanity project. He didn't put himself front and center in it.
Yeah, okay.
It was just like he was jamming with his friends.
It was no 50 odd foot of grunts or whatever the hell.
Holy
Russell Crowe.
Shit. Who told Russell Crowe he could sing? Jesus.
I don't know, but him and Jeremy Renner going out on tour together. And
I'm a nomad. Jeremy Renner's hit single Nomad.
Star bands. Oh, man.
My God. Have you not heard Jeremy Renner's cover of House of Rising Sun that he put out?
Oh, Jesus. I've heard a couple of the things that he put out.
He's okay. He's certainly better than Russell Crowe, but not still. Like, stick to your day job. Just keep being Hawkeye. Keep shooting those bows, Hawkeye.
He just has to train his replacement, then he's out of there.
Yeah, then he's out of there to focus on his rock career. So anyway, they go to this dance. A bunch of people in masks are dancing. You can't not think about Eyes Wide Shut, obviously. But there were vampires in that, right?
It's rich people putting on these masks.
Yeah,
and they're all drinking and having a good time.
Yeah.
And they bring a mask for Marianne, and then we're gonna get you one there, Gerald. And here it is, this dumb devil mask. Most of the guys are wearing devil type masks.
Yeah,
and he's like,
we're
this
totally
is fun.
not a Satanist thing.
And then they do this whole thing of like, well, let's see. There's of course, there's drinks and food, but also dancing. And Marianne's like, I'd love to dance. And Gerald, again, because he's a fucking idiot and stupid, goes, oh, that's great. I want to go hit the bar. So why don't you, guy who's been creeping on my wife this whole movie, Carl, why don't you dance with my wife?
Yeah.
How's that sound?
Yeah.
Go ahead and dance with her for what seems like 30 full minutes.
Yeah.
Because they go through different songs, and the dance floor clears, so it's just them.
Surely you all remember this number. It's from the dance scene in Kiss of the Vampire. Here we go.
Gerald's just getting drunker and drunker, and Savina, the sister, is kind of directing him, like moving him around. And then comes the really
now we have Carl. Part. He swaps masks, and now he's in the devil mask.
Carl grabs the exact duplicate of Gerald's mask, and then does this whole silent, I'm sorry, yes, the clothes are the same. Yes, they're wearing the same mask, but your husband has very dark black hair, and he's different build.
He's beckoning her to follow him silently.
Not saying, but he's like just waving her over, and she's like, Gerald, what's up? She's a little tipsy too, but not like her hubby. So she's following Carl in the mask upstairs, and he keeps going over here. And then basically he gestures her into a room. She's like, what's this all about? And he locks her in.
Shoves her in the
room.
First
he shoves her in the room, takes the mask off to show, it's me, it's Carl.
Yeah. It was Carl who pushed you into this room. Lock.
She does, before he takes the mask off, go, you're not Gerald, are you?
Yeah. Wait a minute. I don't think you're Gerald. What gave me away?
She goes in the room, locks the door, and then just goes back to the party where Gerald is basically pass out drunk.
No, well, so then she starts looking around this room, and she opens a curtain, and lying there is Ravna with blood pouring from his mouth.
Yeah, Ravna just lying in state, not in a coffin, but just in this little...
With his fangs, I think he bit his tongue in the night, and that's where the blood's coming from.
It's true, because who was he feeding on? We don't know.
Got myself there.
I love hammer vampires because they tend to be the sloppiest eaters, because they almost always have.
Christopher Lee's always just got his whole mouth just covered in blood down his chin.
I'm sorry, guys. Even if you have a liquid diet, here's the thing: I like a milkshake, and if I have a milkshake, I go to town on that thing. Do I often just have like a huge trickle of chocolate running down the side of my mouth?
Yeah.
No, because you know what? Manners. Because there are napkins that exist. There's my tongue.
I mean, something. We're talking about we don't do spoofs, but what a great movie What We Do in the Shadows is. But the whole idea of hitting the jugular and then having like, no, it's too much, and there's blood everywhere.
That was so
and
great.
Trying to catch any in your mouth, and you're like,
That's so good.
That movie's
legitimately
that's my favorite. One of my absolute favorite vampire movies. Yeah, same here.
Oh my god.
So
I mean, it's no love at first bite, which will also
what
be
is Dracula Dead and loving it? Come on.
Oh god.
A movie I remember thinking it was funny when I was like 7 when it came out, but have not seen since. So probably better off. I was like, I mean, when I was 7 though, Leslie Nielsen could do no wrong. He was the king of comedy to me.
Sure.
So this cut though is the best part of the movie to me, and it is the cut of her going, "Oh my God, he's a vampire." Cut to drunk fucking moron Gerald throwing a balloon up in the air, being like, "A balloon!"
Yes, it is.
That cut.
Awesome.
I had to pause the movie because I was laughing so hard at that cut.
She's like, "Oh, the terror," and he's like, "A hee balloon." Like, I don't think you understand. This is a balloon.
This guy
Look
is
how
such
fun
an idiot.
this is. Fuck you, Gerald.
Yeah.
That's the message of this movie.
And Sabina is even trying to like, don't you want to come with me? And he's like, no, I like this balloon.
This is interesting because she, at this point, I mean, we know that they're primarily interested in Marianne, mainly because Daddy is like, I want some of that sweet action.
Yeah.
Gerald is an afterthought because they could have turned him, and at one point they even go, "All right, let's initiate him into the cult." Whatever.
I guess
it doesn't come to pass.
If they're a 2-for deal, then we got to take him too.
Kind of, it's like, all right, well, yeah, I'm gonna flirt with you. He goes, "Are you trying to make me a dishonest man? Because I'm happily married."
But he's not putting up too much of a fight, though, right? He's like, because I'm a married man, but you're pretty hot.
You're a terrible actress, but you're pretty hot.
Yeah, just shh, don't talk.
Take a hint from Tanya. She says she had one line of dialogue.
Yeah, Tanya's a looker, not a talker, if you know what I mean. So yeah, he's like, hey, and also, hey, where'd my wife go?
Yeah,
and then it cuts to now Ravna has awakened. And he's beckoning Marianne to come to him, which she does. And this scene is so weird and uncomfortable because he lays her down. His first move, little kiss on the forehead, little kiss. It is literally
a kiss of the vampire.
Yeah, and then it cuts to POV of, I guess, her neck because you see him coming at with the fangs like. Nah.
The camera has decided, you know where I should be? I should be right up under this guy's chin and or nose. I want to look right up his nostrils, and when he opens his mouth, I want to see those tonsils and those fangs. Because it's just close up on this guy's open mouth as he's like, here I come.
Honey, I thought he was gonna bite me. I just went number twosies again.
Hashtag number twosies.
He's back.
Hashtag Campbell and Jones be the monsters. Let's start getting us trending on Twitter.
Yeah, please.
Hashtag number twosies.
I mean, look, we're gonna have to make merch and have a number twosies shirt now.
I'll start drawing it.
Yeah, get on that. Get on that, Brendan.
All right. Okay.
So yeah. Then we cut to Gerald stumbling drunkenly around, and this is when she's like, "You should come upstairs." He's like, "Why? You gonna do me?" Because okay.
Because I'm just about there.
Yeah.
But again, I did some knee bends earlier, and I'm wiped.
I have knee bends and all that booze. Look,
You're gonna have to drive the train, honey.
You're gonna have to drive. It's gonna be a short ride, if you know what I mean. It's gonna be like one stop.
It's the Gerald Express. I hate this guy even more now that I'm putting jokes in his mouth. I hate this guy.
This is the worst. Will we ever find anyone worse than Gerald in these movies?
I don't know. It would take some work.
I hope not.
It'll take some work.
Yeah, this is about the time when I'm really going, where the fuck is Peter Cushing?
I miss both our friends.
I miss Cushing and Lehman. And you see it. You can see how much better they are than these people when you watch stuff like this. You're like, oh, man, those guys were in another league.
They earned every cent of every one of their paychecks.
I mean, I do wonder if at this point they're like, okay, what do we have to do to get Lee back?
I'm sure that there was almost a yearly, monthly begging session where he's like, no, I don't want to do Dracula anymore. I'll do Rasputin, sure. I'll do this, swashbuckling picture.
Yeah.
All right. He was doing all kinds of things for Hammer. He just did not want to return to Dracula until eventually he did.
And then he plays him like 8 times. And it's great. I'm longing for those days. Watching this one, I really am just like, I need Christopher Lee Dracula back in my life. Because that guy, he's so good. Oh,
even without dialogue.
With or without dialogue, I'll take him. However you want to give him to me.
Agreed.
So then the party just suddenly stops now that Gerald's been taken out of the main room, and everybody's like, All right, that's the end of the party. Get your robes on. Cult meeting time.
It's kind of, I did the creeping tension thing does come into play, and I just because this is not like your cookie cutter vampire movie, I'm sitting there going, I kind of like all the weirdness here, where it's the orchestra, the chamber orchestra packs up, and then you have footmen taking down the balloons, and it's like, this is a little too festive for a Satanist vampire cult.
Doesn't really go with the vibe of tonight.
Then they clear out, and then all the aristocrats, then all the royalty, essentially, they put on their cult robes, and I'm like, yes,
I know, I like this too. I thought this was, I was like, ooh, okay, it's a vampire cult. They're all in on this. I like it.
They're all in on this.
I do really like how organized the cult is too. Like, they all get together, they all sit down in perfect rows in their robes. Ravna comes out as their leader, and I wanted to be like, all right, first, minutes from last week's meeting. We had a motion on the floor to, it's just like, let's see. Just, I want him with the clipboard going, what else? Let's see.
All right, that concludes the reading of the minutes. Is there any new business? Is there any old business before we go on to new business?
Yeah, anything?
Anything?
Marjorie's gonna bring cookies next week. Yes, okay, perfect.
Did we get the robe back from the member that was going to join us but got a shovel through her chest? Did we get that robe back? Great.
We didn't? That's a $25 robe.
What's Marianne gonna wear?
We need to we can't keep buying robes, people. Our treasure is furious.
You think it's just because Marianne is blonde, they went for her because the one that was going to join the cult and got the shovel through the trust was also blonde? They're
they have a quota for these things, right?
We needed another blonde. You just happened to show up, British woman.
The cult's out of balance. It's too many brunettes to blondes. It doesn't work. We need another hot redhead. So, and he's like, all right, everybody, I want to introduce you to our newest disciple. Give her a warm welcome and a nice round of applause, everyone.
He actually kind of does do that. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, our new disciple.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yes. Oh, this will do just nice.
The spotlight hits her as she comes in, and she's waving at everybody. It's Marianne in a skimpier robe than others have, I will say. Hers is a...
Do you have a problem with that?
I was deeply offended. I could see this woman's clavicle.
This was not translucent, but yes, it's a little skimpier.
Yeah.
And Marianne is fully under their sway. Like, from the previous scene, I guess he worked his magic.
I can confirm it is not see-through. I watched this in the highest of definition. And,
okay. I got the 4K.
Even at 4K. I had it my 65-inch 4K TV here. Just to make sure we can't see.
They are being delightfully coy here in 1963. Mm-hmm. We know what Hammer will do, but right now they're still being. Delightfully
we'll
coy.
Eventually just get to Boobs the movie. Sooner or later here.
It's still weird how that's a horror film.
Count Boobula will show up later on.
Count Boobula. Wasn't that what you went by in high school? Wasn't that your name?
I did. That was when I that was my DJ handle for the school's radio station. It's Count Boobula in the morning.
And you really committed. You wore a cape. You drew the little widow's peak on.
I really did. And I just told people, "Hey, show us your boobs."
And you had a soundboard full of fart sounds and sirens and air horns.
Oh, yeah. How you doing, Westland High School? It's Count Boobula on the mic.
We said you could do the morning announcements, but we didn't ask for like a zoo crew. Could you not do the morning zoo? Do you think you could?
No dice. That's the zoo crew that we're a package deal. That's right. Toilet flush.
Show us your tramp stamps. All right, that's it. You're off the air.
Yeah, they really didn't like my salute to tramp stamps bit.
This one goes out to all the whale tails in my homeroom.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I'm very tired.
Yeah.
Oh,
This one's getting away from us.
it really is, and I'm sorry to all our listeners, and specifically to my mother.
Yeah.
Why are you listening, Mom?
We've told her expressly countless times not to listen. We're
And
really
she
not
hates
her
horror
audience. Yeah, she's really not our audience.
I don't know why you have to keep talking about tramp stamps.
You know
Bela
what?
Lugosi doesn't even know what that means.
The first time my parents ever saw me do stand up, my mom's whole thing was just like, "Do you have to curse so much?" And by the way, I probably cursed the least of any of the comedians on that show. But the fact that I said anything, she was like, "Oh my God, my boy."
My band in my 20s, my rock band, we played a show in the early evening for like some kind of event, and my mom's like, "I'm going to bring your grandmother to this because she's never seen you perform." So my act is already the songs and the stuff, the banter. I'm always like, "Oh no, I don't even want my parents to hear this. Not my grandmother." Every single curse word in every song, and we just swapped them out. So for an entire show, I was singing literally bleeps and sound-alike words, and it was actually very funny.
Yeah,
because I did a clean version of our entire set, and my grandmother's like, "Well, you were very loud." So it was worth it. It was worth it.
There you go.
We were very loud.
You were very loud.
Um,
You're just too darn loud. I'm sorry. You got to be Huey Lewis from Back to the Future. I'm sorry. You're just too darn loud.
You're too darn loud. Oh, that's great stunt casting, and he did a good job.
He's really funny.
He's really funny for that bit.
Yeah. Now the party stopped. We cut to Gerald stumbling down the stairs of Ravna's house, going, "Hey, where's the party? Where'd the party go, man?"
He does. It's like the next morning, him going, "What? But I thought we were going to be doing kickstands, and where's everybody?" It's all cleaned up.
My second wind.
And this is where it starts. Well, This is where it just gets weird here.
This scene. So for some reason, we cut to yet another POV shot of a first-person perspective from Gerald as he turns and sees Carl standing next to him. And
this is some artistic, like, I'm going to represent drunkenness with the camera work.
Because it's like, whoa.
Now it's Gerald's POV, like, "Hey, Carl, what's up? Hey, where's my wife?"
I love. This is my favorite Carl scene where he's almost like, "You have the audacity to show your face after you got so drunk last night, and you made a complete ass of yourself in front of all of our friends." And he's like, he goes, "Where's Marianne?" He goes, "I surely do not know anyone named Marianne." He's like, "What?"
Yeah. He goes, "What? I'm talking about my wife. You met her? And
you came here by yourself, you drunk skunk."
It's a weird tactic. Here's what I don't understand about the vampire cult at this point. This works for a movie, but it doesn't make any logical sense. If you want to cover up your crime, vampire cult, then you can't just look at this guy and go, "You don't have a wife.
You never had a wife.
You came here alone. You never had a wife."
Like, eventually the guy's just going to be like, "Maybe I never did have a wife."
Yeah, I mean, that no one in real life.
Until he goes back home and they go, "Where's your wife?" "Oh, I did have a wife." Just fucking kill him. Just kill him, vampire cult.
That's what I'm saying. It's like he's food, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. Why are you doing this stupid gaslighting thing?
Vampires aren't very bloodthirsty.
They're really not.
They're not. We never see them feed on anyone.
Well, that's true.
We never do. They only bite people for like self-defense.
To turn them,
or out of self-defense. Yeah. We never see them going like, "I got to get some blood."
It's probably something that Don Sharp. That was one of the things he's like, "Could we cut out some of the biting and the drinking of the blood?"
I'll make this vampire movie, but I don't like the blood. I get real queasy about the blood. So let's do something bold. No blood in the vampire picture. They will drink no blood.
Here's my hot take.
These are some
blood.
These are some really creative ideas, Don. This guy, and then
you're taking this in a bold direction we didn't see coming.
If this movie did well, do you know anything about how well this performed? Because I feel like it's
this
just not delivering the goods that people want out of a vampire movie.
Well, again, when they got the delayed release,
it came out with
it went out.
Right?
Yep. It did.
Which is
and
a good. I like that movie.
Yeah. So
with the
it's hard to
famous booze
separate.
hound Oliver Reed.
The double bill did well.
Yeah.
But this
Or were they
particular
there
film
for
got
evil Oliver Reed or for vampire movie with no blood drinking?
yeah, it got pretty weak box office and pretty weak reviews.
Yeah.
Where they're like going, it initially did well and then dropped off pretty quickly.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Hey, you see that new vampire picture? They never drank any blood in it. It's really weird.
Just that at the end of it was kind of like The Birds, only with cartoon bats and rubber bats on strings.
Did we talk about that? The fact that they moved the release date of this movie so it wouldn't be confused with The Birds?
I didn't think that was the reason they did that.
It's in the IMDb trivia that it was moved to not draw comparisons to Hitchcock's The Birds, which is an infinitely better movie. And when I read that before I watched it, and I thought, what? And then I saw the movie, I'm like, oh. The original, it didn't help the original title of this movie was The Bats.
And also start Tippi Hedren until they're like, you know what? Yeah. No.
Sorry, Tippi. So it was going to be a whole trilogy that she was going to make.
We're going to go with Jennifer Daniel instead. Sorry.
Yeah. Tippi, you got to go home.
You got to
get out of England. Go do Marnie.
You know what, Tippi? Why don't you just take a break and I don't know. Why don't you raise some wild lions somewhere?
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good.
Why don't you start like a wildlife preserve? And
you'll have fun.
Yeah,
you'll have fun.
Yeah, it'd be great.
So now Gerald, he apparently never had a wife. He.
Everyone
and you need to leave this house because you've made an ass of yourself and ruined our
everyone he runs into, because he runs into the bouncer guy, and the big bouncer guy is like, you came here alone, get the fuck out.
They're gonna rough you up a bit on the way out.
Ravna is like, you ain't got no wife, buddy.
And then I like,
does he run into Ravna?
He does, because as they're dragging Gerald out, Ravna says, keep away from here or we'll sick the dogs on you.
Yeah, that's right.
Release the
hounds.
I
mean, this is all crazy, and you're like, oh my god, Ravna and his sex cult they're gaslighting him. Then he gets back to the Grand Hotel with his friends, Bruno and Anna.
First, he stumbles down the road and is almost run over by a carriage.
Right.
Which makes him fall to the ground, and Zimmer grabs him and takes him back to the hotel.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so but Bruno and Anna, Bruno sadly says, you came here alone. You can tell that he doesn't want to say this, but he has to say it. He's like, you don't have a wife. You came here alone. And he goes, well, if I came here alone, how can you explain all these clothes in the closet? He opens it up, but the closet's been emptied. And he's like, what?
They're gone.
Anna doesn't say anything because Anna could not keep this secret. So she doesn't even show up in the scene.
Lady Vanishes is a very good call. I kept thinking Twilight Zone. There's so many episodes of Twilight Zone where it's like, what do you mean you don't know who I am? Can't you see? It's me. It's Bill Johnson. Look, my ID's right. Why, it's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
I swear, my name is right here on the. It's not there.
Ravna's cult.
That's like every fourth episode of the Twilight Zone is that plot.
It's true. Losing your identity.
Yeah, they're not all winners.
I still love the one with the drunk actor guy trapped in this terrible existence, and then they go cut.
Yeah.
And then it turns out he's on a set.
Yeah.
He's like, what? That's not real? But that's my life. I do that job. Now, you did a fine job, Bill, but the scene's over. What? I love that shit.
I do. I've said my theory about the Twilight Zone is a third of them are all-time classics. A third of them are totally solid. And a third of them are terrible.
Yeah,
that's about what it is, because there's so many, and you remember the brilliant ones, and so when you start
batting average
it,
is still so high.
It's great because, like I said, you've got 2/3 of them are brilliant to pretty good, but then that when you run into those from that other third, you're like, oof, I forgot this can be bad.
Usually when they tried for comedy, though there are a couple of the comedy ones that are actually really good, but usually the ones that make me wince are when it's like, aren't we being adorable?
Yeah. and no, the vast majority of them come up to how satisfying is that twist, really? because there's always that big Twilight Zone twist, and the ones that really land make you just go like, my God, that spun my head around. And then the other ones are like, yeah, that didn't really work out.
All I can say is To Serve Man is a cookbook.
Yes.
Oh,
it is. What a hilarious misunderstanding.
Oh my God, To Serve Man, it's a cookbook.
Still love it. All right, so they call in another indication that we're in Germany or something. A pointy helmeted cop comes in. And he's
you want to accuse the richest man in town,
the most respected man.
Yeah. And you want to say he's stolen your wife.
Yeah. When everybody who was there says you were a drunken ass last night.
Yeah. And he's like, but my wife and I signed in at the hotel. Just check the registry. And they check the registry. There's nothing in there.
Yeah. Okay, crazy fella. Once again, what are they hoping? That this guy's going to be so convinced that he'll go back home. They'll say, didn't you have a wife? He goes, no, you're crazy too. I never had a wife. We've all hallucinated this wedding. Like, what's end game with this guy for them?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Again, just killing him would have been the easiest, smartest thing to do.
They're oddly non-violent.
The audience would have been totally behind Gerald's death.
Yes, I would have been so happy about that. Yes, thankfully. Whew. No, that's the thing. They're not violent. They don't kill anybody. They just keep adding more people to their vampire cult. They don't.
Well, that's killing them.
But they don't take anyone out. It's always just like, come and be with us. They're never just like, you're gonna die. You're getting in the way. We got to take you down. It's just like,
we really haven't seen them except for
even with
Tanya.
Gerald, they go, fine, let him in. Like, Jesus, if he's gonna be a dick about this, we'll just make him one of us.
I think they're trying to put some sort of like restriction on like only rich, pretty people.
Yeah.
Except for Tanya, who is a poor, pretty person.
Yeah, but
I'd imagine.
Have you seen the body on her? Ooh.
I know. So I think Bruno and Anna are safe.
Yeah.
And will not be turned. They need humans
like
who are complicit.
Yeah, you know what? They can just work for us. We got their hot daughter, so
the only people we see in the town besides at the opening funeral. I mean, we really only have seen Bruno and Anna, and this cop, and the priest from the opening shows back up at the end. Very confusing.
Out of nowhere, I had to be like, "Oh right."
Nowhere, and he has had no part of the plot whatsoever until the very end. You're
I've just been informed about the vampires, so I guess I'm ready to go.
Apparently, the most important man in town runs a vampire sex cult.
I'm sorry, you'll have to give me a second. I'm still processing this news.
I mean, he donates so much.
I'll get my vampire stuff. Sure. But
didn't think I'd be taking that out of Hawk. It's covered in dust.
Yeah, look at all the dust.
Like everything else.
Look at it. Look at it, Gerald. Look at the dust.
Oh God! Everyone in this town shows me dust.
And there's something written here on the box. I don't know. Do you have a mirror? We'll put this backwards. It seems to say
it's Dracula backwards. It's Dracula backwards.
Oh, that's what it is. Now I see. So the cop is just like, well, good luck making a case on that, you drunk. And then of course Zimmer's immediately like, they have her. They have Marianne. I remember her. And what he says, do you know that people can be corrupted by the devil? That's how he opens this.
Yeah. Well, first he goes, do you believe in God? And he goes, yeah, I'm not really religious. I believe in God. He goes, well, you need to work on that. And he goes, you believe in the devil? And he goes, what really? He goes, no, not the pointy-eared thing. It's like the force of evil. It exists. Yeah. And it can work on people in various ways. He's like, yeah, whatever. Sure. Okay.
And he's like, you ever heard of a vampire?
He goes, yeah, you like movies about gladiators.
That's exactly what I thought. And then Peter Graves pops up as Professor Zimmer. You like vampires, Timmy?
You ever been in a Turkish prison?
Ever seen a grown man naked?
Jesus God.
One of the funniest movies ever made.
And Unlimited viewings still funny.
I was just watching it the other month and it was still killing me, and I've seen it I don't know how many times, but it's still
you can recite it from beginning to end, but then watching it, it's just still kills.
It's just pure silliness, and I love every second.
God bless it.
Yeah. Pick the wrong day to quit sniffing glue.
You sure did, John. We should get back to the movie though.
Yeah.
So finally we have Zimmer's like, here is the story.
Yeah.
And
I looked at the time. There's 12 minutes left in the film.
Yes. And we finally have our vampire expert saying that there are vampires about.
I'm like, it's like there are vampires about, and we got to wrap this up.
And he says, your wife is with them, and she'll be safe until tonight.
Yeah,
and you're like,
it hasn't fully taken effect. Right. There's an incubation period on vampirism, I guess.
I mean, there are lots of movies and folklore that do the whole thing about, well, they bite you 3 times. The 3rd time kills you, and then on the 3rd day after your death, you rise as a vampire.
But the movie doesn't have some of them do rules like that. It's more just like, yeah, I guess she'll be all right.
Yeah, she should be okay. Yeah. But then he goes on to say, I can fight them. I know a spell that will use the powers of darkness against them.
I mean, he tells his own backstory in here, too. He's like, I had a daughter. She fell in with a bad crowd. Bang, vampire.
And the entire audience
his
is
line
going...
is brilliant because he goes, she came back full of disease, ...
Yeah.
Also, she was a vampire.
Yeah, full of disease. Like, I'm talking STDs. I'm saying... We're talking with them.
We're talking about running the gamut here. We're talking about herpes. We're talking about the clap.
She was unclean.
Yeah.
Oh, and a vampire.
I swear that's how he delivers that line.
He really He goes full of disease, and a vampire.
And also she was a vampire. So yeah, that was bad too.
And your daughter was nasty. Anyway,
and then Gerald's just like, excuse me. Is your daughter still around by any chance?
She a goer.
Yeah.
You know, she go.
I mean, because I just found out, apparently I've been single this whole time, so I'm looking for a good time.
Gerald, awful. But as Gerald does ask the question that the entire audience has been asking, like, well, if you know how to do all this shit, why haven't you done it till now? And then he says, there's a spell.
He has a very convenient answer for this.
Yeah, very convenient. He goes, because needed this full moon, and we're up on the full moon, and Capricorn and Aquarius in some sort of conjunction, which happens to be tonight.
Oh, actually, no. There's actually a whole scene before this.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead again.
Because there's a whole scene where, I don't know why, Zimmer's going to, because he drugs Gerald, and then Zimmer takes off to Ravna's castle in the dead of night, the vampire hour.
Right.
And Gerald...
And he says to Gerald, like, I need you, I've drugged you, and you're going to need all your strength for tonight.
Right. And then Gerald beats him to Ravna's house, pounces on him, and knocks him unconscious. Then Gerald goes in, finds Tanya, and he's like, I need you to tell me where my wife is. He goes full-on 90s Harrison Ford thriller, saying, give me back my wife. And
also tells him to get off his plane, which doesn't make any sense.
One of my favorite moments in action filmmaking is get off my plane.
It only works because it's Harrison Ford.
That movie's so awesome. I love Air Force One.
It's a terrible, stupid line and a not so great thriller, but you got Harrison Ford selling it every minute of the day.
Get off my plane. And then he punches Gary Oldman, whose neck is already tied to something. His neck snaps and he falls out of the plane. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And when I was 8 years old, that was the best thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Because that was Indiana Jones punching Dracula.
It was. Yeah. Get him, Indy. Send that vampire bastard back to hell.
That's all I've ever wanted in my life.
Pretty much, yeah. So we get this whole scene, and I guess Tanya does tell him because he knows where she is. We don't really get anything with Tanya.
Well, no, she does the similar thing of like, follow me. Like she's like, okay, I'll help you out.
Oh, that's right, because they trap him
and
here.
Then, yes, and then she shoves him in a room. And there's Rad sitting there going,
boy,
oh, it's you again.
Both of you keep falling for the same trick.
And here's a pretty good scene, which is just all right. It's
I actually
part
really
of the
like
vampire.
Ravna in this scene where he's like full on supervillain here.
Right. And this is also a thing where Hammer is continuing to adultify the folklore of vampirism, because here they're clearly leaning into, there's an aspect of the vampire lore that the earlier movies barely hinted at because it was an earlier age. Here they're saying it is a seduction. It's a corruption of innocence.
Yeah.
So we've had pretty young, unless she's being nosy, likable Marianne.
Mm-hmm.
She's been seduced by the dark side. She's been bitten. And so they bring her in, and she's in a flimsy nightgown.
Yeah.
Not translucent.
Not translucent once again. Watched it in 4K and didn't see a thing. So
But she's brought in. So Gerald's like, oh my God, there she is. But she's clearly in a trance.
So I like this where he's like, all right, bring Marianne in. But listen here, Gerald. She's evolved since you last saw her. And I highly doubt she's going to want to go anywhere with you now.
Yeah, and so
this is Ravna's best scene by far, and then they bring her in, and this is a cool line. Gerald says, "My God," and Ravna goes, "God is hardly involved."
Yeah, God is hardly involved. It's pretty good. It's a good line.
Fantastic. That's a good vampire line.
And I do like that the vampire sex cult, they all wear white. I mean, it's kind of a like, you thought they'd all be like all gothed out. No. They're all wearing these white robes.
Like a clean, crisp look.
It does wonders for the blood when it pours.
And so Marianne now is like, I don't love you. I love Ravna. I seek only to serve Ravna.
Well, Ravna's like going, do you love your husband? No, I love only you. He's like, do you want to go with him? No, I want to stay with you. He goes, then prove to me how much you don't love him anymore.
I like this.
And she walks over and spits on Gerald. At which point the audience actually applauds.
Woo!
I mean, I wasn't back there in 1963, but I can only imagine the audience went, fuck yeah. Because she spits on her former husband.
Now kill him!
Yeah, kind of. But she goes back to Ravna, and Gerald is just defeated. And they're like, well, you know what? We'll let you join our vampire cult.
He goes, Marianne, go ahead and initiate him. And she tears open his shirt and scratches his chest. Interesting.
And then is about to go. Yeah, it is weird because you think, well, that's where she's going to drink blood from.
Yeah.
No, she starts going for his throat.
Yeah.
Then he does.
He's wiggled one of his hands loose from his ropes, and he very quickly makes a cross out of blood on his chest. And they're all like,
it's pretty good in concept, but it doesn't look very good as a cross. But he does this
Cushing
smearing his blood into a cross. Yeah,
if Cushing
on his
had done
chest.
it, we would have loved it.
Oh, yes,
it's just like Get Off My Plane. Anybody else but Ford, we would have laughed. Ford does it. It's badass.
But instead we get Gerald, and they go, no, there's a cross on his chest, and that allows him to escape.
Well, then Zimmer busts in. And and he's like, come on, I'm holding the door open. And Gerald just grabs Marianne. He's like, and got my wife, yoink, and we're gone. And they run out of there.
This is interesting because I mean, I understand for moving the story along, but I'm like, she's not full vampire yet, but she's there. She's a thrall. Mm-hmm. And the idea that Gerald could just grab her and she just limply goes with him after she's basically gone, I don't want to leave Ravna.
Any woman in any of these movies, as soon as she's picked up, she goes immediately unconscious.
Is she unconscious? Because she runs with him. I mean, but like I'm kind of tripped out.
Well, she immediately falls unconscious once they get back to the hotel, because then she's just unconscious. Yeah. But then they're hiding from this big bouncer bruiser of a henchman.
Yeah, basically, Zimmer says, look, if you take out the big guy, they're going to be helpless.
And so Gerald is hiding behind this like cement spire on the wall of the place.
Yeah.
And he's looking at this bruiser of a henchman. And then somehow, I guess it wasn't cemented down very well, he's able to push this spire over. It didn't seem like it was cracked or anything, but he's somehow able to...
big piece of masonry, he's able to somehow dislodge and shove it down. And this is a pretty good cut, because at least here we don't see that it's a rubber floor or anything. We see the thing fall towards the guy.
Yeah.
And then there's a quick cutaway, and then we cut back, and the guy's just crushed under it.
Well, I will say he wasn't crushed enough for my taste.
I know. No one ever is, John.
No, I'm just saying, because it's this big, heavy cement pillar, and he's got a bloody mark on his head, but it's just sitting on his chest. And I'm thinking, he'd just be concaved into the ground.
stove him in, and
Yeah,
there
I'm
should
thinking
be blood.
that scene in Hot Fuzz where the piece of the church falls on the guy's head. That's what
I
I'm
know,
talking about.
with little gouts of blood going.
Yeah, that's a movie.
That's a great scene.
That's a movie that gets me going, obviously, because there's a lot of
I know,
great gory deaths in that.
a lot of good gore.
Yeah,
God bless him.
yeah. Edgar
But
Wright, he knows how to do it. Can Edgar Wright make a monster movie like this? I would love to see that. I would love to see him make something in the. I know he's a big devotee of Hammer. I just heard him talking about it on a podcast.
Well, why don't these people, these great Brit filmmakers who loved this stuff as kids?
Yeah.
I mean, why don't they do one of these?
Yeah. Bring back
an updated Hammer.
Hammer's still around. They're making movies, but they're not making Dracula, Frankenstein movies.
No, they're still sticking to kind of supernatural or thrillers.
Yeah.
But they haven't returned to this well. They're probably
okay. What's the Daniel? Was it Woman in Black?
Woman in Black.
That was all right.
It was, and that was their first we're back, everybody.
Yeah.
And then they've continued to put stuff out, but pretty quietly. They're not.
And none of it really has that Hammer feel. It's all
again the nightgowns are not nearly diaphanous.
No, and there's not enough vivid red blood.
Man, that's all I want.
Can we get the same CGI Christopher or Peter Cushing that was in Rogue One? He'll be in these new Hammer movies.
Look, I'll find what drive they stored that on, and I'll bring it to you guys. You can just animate them however you like.
Perfect.
Well, now he's tap dancing.
We can make 100 more Peter Cushing movies.
There is. They're fighting each other. It's just like the scene in Matrix 2 with all the Agent Smiths.
So
was that Matrix 2 or 3? It doesn't matter.
I believe it's both. It had both have because it's Matrix 2 that he fights them because it's in 3 when he fights just the one Smith while the other Smiths watch.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. I forget those sequels as much. Yeah, me too. But I forget those sequels as much as I can.
Same here, particularly 3. Oof. So they escape out of there, out of the Ravna's castle, and Zimmer's like, "Oh wait, hold on," and he just quickly closes the door and draws a cross, and he's like, "Ha, that'll get him."
Yeah, that's pretty weak. The one gate, then he draws like a cross on, but he does say later he also surrounded the entire place with garlic.
He sealed every entrance out of the place with garlic, he says, so they're trapped.
Did it take you a couple of weeks, guy? Because it's a big fucking place.
Yeah, every Tuesday I'd seal one door, and then I'd come back and I'd seal another one. And they just kept going, I can't get through this door for some reason.
He goes, okay, they're trapped, which will allow us to I can do the spell, and that'll be the big thing. We'll finish them off.
When the moon is full and Capricorn is in conjunction with Saturn.
Oh,
I wrote this down. I will, and he says blah, 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 some, I don't know if it's Latin or something, but what it translates to is the evocation of the forces of evil, which is a spell that will force evil to destroy itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all entrances are sealed with garlic, so they fucked, man.
Again, this is an idea they had for Brides of Dracula, and originally, Cushing was going to, and he's like, no. I know you like this idea, but Hammer wasn't going to let this idea go. They're like, we're going to have our storm of bats. We're going to have our...
You'll see, Cushing. People will love it.
We're going to have our vampire hunter call up the forces of evil to fight vampires.
We'll make it work by making him a drunk for most of the movie, and then it'll make sense that he's invoking evil. So... this is one of my favorite parts too, is when we cut back to Ravna's castle and everyone's trapped and all of the cult members are just yelling at Ravna. Like, what are we going to do? We're trapped in here. And he's like, calm down, everybody. Calm down, everyone.
I do like this, just the concept of it's a vampire cult now. So it's like Ravna's got acolytes, but he has to deal with being this boss dude. Like, would everyone just calm down? I'm the leader.
If I knew being a cult leader was this hard, I never would have started this cult.
Yeah. Jesus. Oof. All right, maybe you two could stay. You guys are all right. The rest of you guys.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And you know what, Dawn? I never liked you.
Never liked you.
What?
Every time we do the sex stuff, you're creepy.
Yeah.
You're creepy for no one likes having
even
the
by
sex
vampire orgy standards, you're creepy. All right.
You're creepy.
I hate to say it, but somebody has to. You're making everyone uncomfortable.
They're freaking out, and they're like, and Ravna knows what's up. He goes, well, this is part of the plan to destroy us. Is they've trapped us in here, and probably Zimmer's going to do some kind of magic-y thing. He goes, but we need to get Marianne back, because if she's here, they won't dare go through with it because she'll be destroyed as well.
Yeah.
So all we have to do is call her to us.
Yeah.
So he's doing the whole like, I'm hypnotically calling you from afar,
and we
come
see her
to
eyes
us, Marianne.
open in the bed and her start up out of the bed. And then meanwhile, Zimmer is starting the ceremony. He draws a pentagram on the ground, and he stands in it. And I just love Gerald holding this big book open. He's like, just hold that still so I can read from it. And and he's like, that's your job, Gerald. You'll hold the book.
You're pretty useless. So just do this.
I was gonna put it on a table, but I guess since you're here and you need to do something.
As heroes go, you suck. So why don't you just do that, okay?
Oh, God,
Great.
You're not the hero of this movie, are you? Oh, Lord.
I just realized you're the hero. Oh, shit.
Oh, this movie's doomed. So Marianne wakes up. Gerald, I guess, is done with his book holding duties because he comes back in and sees that she's not in her bed. And at this point, the first big move of the spell is wind blowing real hard.
Of course.
Yeah. And Gerald has chased Marianne outside. And at this point, the local priest has also shown up.
Well, yeah, but the thing that did crack me up before we know that Marianne has absconded. Gerald is so useless that I was laughing. The spell is underway, and Gerald's like, I'm just going to duck out real quick.
Yeah.
Instead of being the assistant vampire hunter, he's like, you're good to finish up reading that part?
So the spell pretty much takes care of itself from here on? Okay.
He does. He just sort of like sneaks out. Like, I'm going to go check on my wife, who apparently still exists.
Yeah.
And then he goes to look for her and finds that she's gone, and then he's going to go find her. That part's heroic enough, but it was just that I'm going to sneak out of here.
The priest does most of the shit at the end of the movie with her, though.
Yeah, Gerald doesn't.
Because then he's like, come on over here. Hey, priest, come here. And the priest is like, what?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, just wandering out in the wind, but
it was
which
windy
pretty
out. I thought I'd see what was going on. Oh, what's this, vampires?
I was like, that's pretty effective. Their wind machines were cranked up. That was really heavy, except for anytime they do a wide shot.
Yeah.
Because you'd get a good chunk of the foreground, and it is hurricane force winds. Marianne is up a ways.
Yeah.
And you just see these bushes just standing there perfectly still, and her hair isn't moving. And I'm like, oh, right. It's not all over because it's hammered. They've got they're doing this for £5.
That was their catchphrase. They say, hey, it's Hammer.
It's Hammer, and they were a cheap unit, which makes it all more impressive.
They make the money. The money goes a long way in some of these movies.
It looks good.
Yeah.
So yes, they track her down and basically just stop her from going into the place.
Yeah. Isn't the priest doing some kind of prayer and holy water or something though? And then she's not a vampire anymore.
No, he doesn't bring her back from being a vampire, but he does do some praying over her.
I guess maybe that's just to keep her in place or something. I don't know.
Yeah, to keep her from like
the priest has got to do something, so he's like, "Oh, Father to the Son."
Still don't know why he's there at this point. It makes no. I mean,
he's
not like
he just pops up. What?
It's not like he'd had a dialogue scene with Zimmer early going, are you really going to try and defeat those vampires?
No,
nope.
It's more just like, I'm the only other person in this town. I might as well be in the climax of the film.
So this is also interesting. This is the first of these movies where our vampire hunter, ostensibly Van Helsing, is literally like a mile away from the climax.
Yeah.
He's doing all this stuff from the
it's
hotel.
Less fun.
Yep. And he finishes the spell. He's saying the spell. Everything's gone dark. The wind's whipping up, and the vampires know.
Our boy Van Helsing would have come in here and punched each one of these vampires.
Each one
for you,
they would have.
And you line up for punches.
Where's Don, the one no one likes?
I heard you were being creepy at the orgies. You get 2 punches, Don.
You get two punches.
Yeah, and a kick in the balls. That'll teach you.
A kick in the balls. Ah, yes, the balls of the undead. Not many people know it's a weak spot.
The
It's a
vampires'
weak spot
one
on everybody,
weakness:
man.
their balls.
So
Even the women, yes.
vampires know the jig is up, and there's a sound in the
Oh
wind,
my
and
god. I
it's a
was not
squeaky,
ready for the
squeaky
end of this
sound.
movie.
I mean,
Funny squeaky sound.
I knew from reading the stuff about Brides of Dracula and all that this was coming, so I was a little disappointed. I knew.
Oh man,
But
because I
here
have to tell
comes
you, it was pretty special not knowing and just experiencing this. Like, what?
here comes a swarm of bats,
Yeah.
and they are, I guess, hell bats. Though, unlike the poster, they are not giant.
No,
This-
they're pretty hammer grade rubber bats,
well, they start as cartoon bats,
and then they become
outside the castle.
very unconvincing. They're pretty unconvincing cartoon bats, and then they're
And
very unconvincing rubber
uh,
bats.
The rubber bats are they're bad,
And they're just
man.
seizing upon these vampires and drinking their blood. And these poor actors who have to be like,
Yeah.
these bats, they're all over me. I can't.
Yeah.
They're just everyone's
It's
overcome by this army of bats.
It's like Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi with the rubber octopus, trying to make it look like it's attacking him,
Yeah.
but just he's pulling the arms onto himself.
Yeah.
This is the same thing where they're like, these bats. And I did notice a few shots where they're like going, this is not working. So make sure that the lady vampires in their gowns, make sure they fall to where there's panty shots.
Yeah.
Like they're attacked by bats, they fall down, and the camera goes, do you like that, fellas? Here's a little bit of leg. Here's a little bit of a panty shot.
You know, I don't know, honey. These bats don't look very convincing. Who's looking at the bats?
It's my favorite scene of the movie.
Wait, what bats?
Yeah. You said there's bats now? But the climax of our movie is the forces of hell have sent bad rubber bats into this castle to latch on to these vampires and drain them.
And they just wipe out this whole cult.
Ravna, the actor guy, does a decent job of like, I'm fading.
He does a whole
dead.
like slide down the wall as he's overcome by bats with his arms out, like,
The close-up bats that aren't the rubber ones on the strings, but the ones that are attached to them are slightly better made.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
More convincing, and they have a few shots of them kind of glomming on, like jumping in.
And there's a couple shots where, and I mean, maybe it's just where my mind goes, but where the bats are supposed to be sucking the blood out of like a woman's leg, but it looks like the bat is just humping her leg. It's just moving. Yeah. You know, it's got its wings out. It's just like,
as far as I know, that is a way to get rid of a vampiress.
Yeah.
To have a rubber bat just hump their leg. I may be wrong. I'll look it up.
We'll send Humpy, the humping bat.
So here's the thing. Marianne, all right, the vampires all die. Mm-hmm. Finally. Marianne wakes up in the field and goes, Gerald, like it's all been a bad dream.
Yeah.
Then we get back to the turret or wherever that the vampires were, and they're just lying there dead. The bats are gone.
Yeah.
And
that's the end.
there's not like a follow. I mean,
no, this movie just stops.
But a follow.
The Hammer movies have been better about that than the Universal movies.
Generally speaking, yes.
At least
and
having some sort of last note, if not an actual denouement scene. There'll at least be like a final image, and I think that's what this Shot of the Dead Vampire is supposed to be. It just doesn't have any impact. But at least there's like sort of a like, this is the end. This was just like, I guess it's over.
I would have loved like a Grace Note epilogue scene where Marianne like is reunited with Gerald, and she goes, "Thank you for saving my life. We're done."
Yeah, yeah. That
like,
that was
that's not a vampire
that's
anymore.
all you.
But I have learned some things about myself.
Yeah.
And about you.
Yeah.
And we're donezo.
Yeah. Oh. Or I would have liked the scene just where somebody comes in and goes, "We finally got the petrol for your motor car." Finally.
I was worried this entire film, like, will the car ever drive again?
Yeah.
And we never get that answer. So that's the end of Kiss of the Vampire.
Kiss of the Vampire, yeah.
And here's the thing. I mean, okay. I don't know. Maybe I got mixed up. The whole time watching the movie, I kept going, when is Nicolas Cage going to eat that roach? Yeah. And he never eats that roach.
Yeah. That's the 80s film Vampire's Kiss, which is definitely a one down the road for us. and is an all-time Nicolas Cage performance.
Boy, that one's for the books.
He is, and he really ate a real roach for that scene, of course.
And the director did not ask him to.
No. That's a Cage thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He goes, well, I could actually eat a real one. I'm like, okay.
Check it out. I'm going to eat this real cockroach.
But he did it like 2 or 3 times.
He did, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
What, do you need another take? I'll take another one down.
God.
Come on, cockroach.
So 1963's Kiss of the Vampire. John, is it a recommend for you?
I don't think I can recommend it. It's not a hard no, but I don't think in good conscience I can actually recommend this movie. I think it just leans towards no for me.
I can.
Okay. But it's got to be on the lighter end of yes for you.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I don't think this is any kind of groundbreaker.
I feel like we're in roughly the same place. You're just leaning a little bit more yes, and I'm leaning a little bit more no.
That's exactly it. The thing I like about it is just where it's trying to take a vampire story. I'm not saying it does it successfully.
Like I said earlier, there's a lot of good ideas here.
Mm-hmm.
But execution-wise, acting-wise, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of characters. That's my biggest thing is I don't really like these characters, and I think that's a huge problem.
But I do like Jennifer Daniel. Yeah. I did like Marianne. I'm sorry, I'm going to defend her.
I think she's fine.
I thought Noel Williams as Ravna, not great.
He has his moments, though.
He has his moments where you're like, all right, he's doing his own thing.
But there's no question that he's here because we can't get Christopher Lee.
Right. And straight down the board, Edward D'Souza can eat a bag of dicks.
I mean, truly, this guy is awful, though. I mean, this is 2 in a row where he is just garbage in these movies.
Just garbage.
No charisma whatsoever. Oh my God, he's terrible. I hope we never see him again. I can't believe he's.
I don't think we do.
I don't think we do either. But
let this be the end of his Hammer horrors, and hopefully we never.
Apparently he is. I mean, we talked about this last week, but he is in The Spy Who Loved Me. So unfortunately, he does creep his way into a Bond picture. But
he snuck onto the set one day.
Roger Moore's like, "I'm sorry, who are you?"
We need a sheik. Is there anyone around who could play a sheik? I just happened to be walking by. I could do a sheik.
I already have a sheik costume with me, so well, I guess we're already behind in shooting. So yes.
No, we will never see him again until we do our podcast. So we're done.
Oh my God. Anyway,
don't like.
That's Kiss of the, or was it? Yeah, Kiss of the Vampire. Now I'm confused about Kiss of the Vampire versus
Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah. You did that to me.
Sorry.
Well, next week is the last of our run of one-offs here, and
but it's not really one-off, isn't it? A sequel?
It's a new Mummy. It's an all-new Mummy.
Okay. It's an all-new Mummy.
An all-new Mummy. No Cushing, no Lee this time.
I know.
I think it will be interesting to see how much it connects, but we're going back to the world of the Mummy as we watch Curse of the Mummy's Tomb.
Yep.
Do you have any memories of this one?
No. To tell you the truth, as far as the Hammer Mummy films, I only have memories of the first, of Christopher Lee's Mummy.
Same here.
So, I think Blood from the Mummy's Tomb I may have seen, but I think mainly that's hormonal, because I think the leading lady in that one, Valerie Leon, is one of those Hammer ladies that as a teenager I was like, I think you're very attractive. So I think I have vague memories of Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, which is the third Hammer Mummy movie.
Yeah, but that one's down. There are 4 in total, because there's also the Mummy's Shroud.
Oh my God!
From '67. So, yeah,
man, I really wasn't aware we'd be doing so much Mummy.
And wasn't that what we said in the last season of the show? We didn't realize there were this many Mummy movies for Universal either. There are less for Hammer, but still more than you expect.
Yeah, it's strange that they would keep going back to mummies when werewolves got no love.
No, they felt that one didn't go well, so they were just like steer away from werewolves entirely.
Instead, let's just keep trotting out some Egyptian guy who doesn't get to talk.
I love that the mummies, for some reason, are the cost-saving ones. It seems like it's almost like that's a cheap idea. Is it?
I don't know, but I do think that they are. I think Hammer starts thinking of them in the same way that Universal did, as these are the pulpier ones that we can do as quasi adventure tales.
Well, looking at the runtimes, they also are shorter than other Hammer movies, so it is definitely that deal.
But man, I would always prefer a Wolfman over a Mummy. No offense.
100%. I definitely rank Wolfman over.
Unless your mummy is reimagined and talks and has motives and things like that, and they don't do that.
We'll get there someday, though, when we get to the wonderful year of 1999 and the best mummy movie I've ever seen.
We will party like it's 1999 with our old friends Brendan Fraser, no relation, and
no relation on
and
first names.
Rachel Weisz. Rachel Weisz.
Yeah, we'll definitely hear your thoughts about Rachel Weisz, I'm sure.
She's beautiful.
Yeah,
and a good actrris. Very good actress.
Well, that's key, I think, to Rachel Weisz's presence, and that is also a good actress.
I mean, the fact that that was the first time I'd seen her do a comedic turn. I mean, besides being a good indie film actress and beautiful, that was the first time I was like, you got chops. You got comedy chops.
She's very charming, and that they're both and they're very charming together. I'm not
sure why her career hasn't been bigger, because she's
gonna be in a Marvel movie.
Yes, at long last. It's about time.
Someday when we get to see Black Widow. Anyway,
days, man.
Now I'm just sad. So let's wrap things up for this week. Yeah, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Brendan Jones.
And remember, there are such things as monsters.
And sex cults.